Hopefully that works. Boom. Boom. StreamYard. Here we go. One more time, guys. There.
There will be one in 2027, as
Okay.
there's a website, aquariummontreal.com, and like the homepage, it brings you to what I described, like, the big glass wall aquarium.
Okay.
And then I clicked on like a whatever location or like about us, and it says opening 2027. So
Okay.
yes. But as of now,
fantastic.
there doesn't seem to be anything on that scale.
Well, I'd love to go check it out at some point. Yeah, but I'm a big fan of aquariums. But yeah, I guess I never went to a zoo. I was scheduled to go to a zoo as a child in elementary school, right? Like in elementary school, I had this thing where, well, I'm not sure if it was limited to that point in time. Well, anyway, like I had to like get a permission slip, and I always forget about it. Like until like until the day of, right? And then my mom, like, she would get really annoyed by that. And then this time, when I handed it to her, she refused to sign it.
Wow. That is like, abuse. Straight up abuse.
And she's like, "Oh, you should have given this to me before." But look, what difference does it make? Honestly, what difference does the timing make? Like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna look at it, right? And it's not like she was gonna, let me do like research into this place, right? Make sure everything's all good, right? Like, what? You know how to use the internet, and there was no information for this stuff. Like, so there's no difference if I hand it to you like a month in advance or like on my way out of the car, right? Like into the schoolyard, right? Like you're gonna look at it and like, all right, I guess it's a school trip, it'll probably be fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was no other like discretion, no other decision making going into it. Right, like, but she made a big fucking deal about this. Any which way, I get to go to the zoo, and I've never been to the zoo.
Yeah, one shot, one opportunity.
One opportunity. That was it. It's never happened again. Yeah.
And I don't know how common it, or let's say, I was actually pretty fortunate, at least in elementary school and high school. Like there were actually a fair amount of trips to the zoo. Because like there are actually a number of zoos, whatever, in the surrounding Montreal area, like whatever, an hour's drive away, multiple ones. And the ones that are like, so whatever, safari, like in terms of like you're in your car and like, the animals come up to your car and you feed them type of stuff.
Actually, I might have lied to you, and I don't. So I'm pretty sure this is Hong Kong. I want to say no. So I went to, that's what this probably is. Actually, no, maybe I didn't lie to you. So I went to an amusement park in Hong Kong, and that was pretty fun. But like they had an exhibit there. I'm pretty sure this is where this happened. They had an exhibit there. I think there were some animals, and I think there were like some red pandas, not like panda pandas, right? The logo pandas, but just like red pandas. And I specifically remember that exhibit. I don't remember if they had like a full thing afterwards, right? Like a full zoo type of thing. But they did have some animals. But yeah, I don't think I've been to like a dedicated zoo. Yeah.
Oh, that's wild, man. Yeah. Dude, I was really lucky. I grew up going to the safari park that I was talking about. And it's honestly, I think one of the reasons why I'm a biologist. I loved it so much, like just being able to go there and but being like introduced to so many different types of animals, and then just trying to like, fall in love with like learning about like wildlife too, like and conserving it. I think like zoos are really important for conservation. It's a way for you to interact and kind of like see these organisms for the first time. It's a really important. I think like historically they've been really bad for conservation because they've been poaching animals. They've like for SeaWorld, for example, and aquariums. They're kind of bad, and the private aquarium hobby is kind of bad because it's like basically paying people to poach. But I think in general, it has to be a place to see and encounter wildlife that you've never seen for the first time.
I might push back just a bit, where like I understand the point. I don't really strongly disagree with it, but I do think, at least in my mind, there's a little bit something, and I could be wrong, something problematic about people need to be able to see and interact with these animals in order to appreciate or actually desire their conservation. I would hope there's better ways to get people to take something seriously, as opposed to just should we put certain people on display to ensure they care about the homeless? Just have
people don't care about people on the other side of the planet right now.
Exactly.
Horrible things.
I
mean, I think I feel your tension there. That we shouldn't need to see them necessarily to care about them, but that doesn't seem to be how people work. And then what our friend Dr. Greg is telling us is that it literally inspired him. So I mean, it is what it is. Humans work the way they do.
To be fair, he's a microbiologist, so it didn't inspire him. It inspired him to look at the micro. He did not go to the safari and interact with some microbes. He did.
The safari micro.
Entirely too large for me. I don't. I don't have this in my full control. I can't wrestle this bear to the ground. Well, then maybe that's what all the working out is for. Maybe
there you go.
Okay, round 2.
Exactly. I still think I can take a bear out, dude, for sure. No way. I'm surviving that. I'm sorry. There's no way. At least you got to think. You got to think you're going into that you're going to win. That's the only way to win. So
I would love, Dr. Greg, if you could be so kind as to film a video for my mother talking about how the zoo changed your life. I would love to guilt trip her, even to this day, for not signing that permission slip. Right? Look, you changed the direction of my whole life. This has changed.
Because of you, I don't have a PhD like Dr.
Yeah,
there you
exactly
go.
Right.
You did it. You heard it. Yeah, it's I don't know. I think that I think I was obviously inclined to kind of like that stuff, and then it's your environment shapes a lot, what you're exposed to, I think really helps, so I think those early exposures do have a big impact genuinely.
I definitely wholeheartedly agree. Let's say, it's also, can I truly actually know what inspired me to pursue science? I don't know if I can fully answer that question, but let's say what I can say is definitely growing up, as much as I enjoyed the zoos and all that stuff, what I truly enjoyed was, things pretty stereotypical, like Bill Nye the Science Guy. That's what I grew up on. But I also mostly grew up on the lesser known Beakman's World, which very people know.
Dude, I love Beakman's World. Yes, dude. Yeah, for real. I remember that.
Yeah, with Josie, his assistant, and I think it was Lester the rat, and the penguins in the intro. I love Beakman's World. And I don't know, I assume these are no longer a thing, but when book orders in school were a thing and you get the book catalog, Beakman's World had I don't know if that was, maybe this is a Canadian thing, I don't know, but there was every once in a while, there was a book sale, and they give you a catalog to choose books that you would potentially want.
I think they have similar things. I don't think they had that. Well, they might have had that when I was growing up, but I think they still have those things now. They have these book fairs and stuff to get kids interested in reading. It depends on your district. It depends on how much money they have. Depends on lots of things. But
yeah. But on one of those times in the book catalog, there was a book from whatever Beakman's World, pretty much like a George's book from Beakman's World to do your own at-home experiments. And then there was another book when that was pretty much just a bunch of images, electron microscopy images of whatever, the bug's eye, all that stuff. And I got that book. I'm that was cool. That's what really.
Yeah, dude. I think I mean, the thing is like there's I mean, microbiology is literally like an unseen world that nobody has really seen. You know, I think it's like completely alien to us. Like just describing it. I mean, imagine describing to someone that has no frame of reference, like what a coral reef is. You know, how wild it is. Like how, and there's like animals that they're animals that build structures, but they stay there like skyscrapers, but they grow, but they're actually animals inside. And then there's like all these other animals that are just like they're moving, they're like flying, but it's water. It's like hard to move, but they can move really quickly. And then it's like and they all fly together. It's like, you know, it's just I don't know, it's just so wild,
and
man.
it's important on a global scale in terms of its impact,
Mhm.
you know, and just like the balance of the world. Yeah,
Critical, like critically important that people understand. I mean, it's really just like unseen world, and microbiology is like that, right? Where it's like literally completely unseen, unimaginable. Like I would say again, like it's another like an unimaginable world, like diatoms, stuff like that. Like, are you really gonna like be able to intuit that there's that type of like structure and stuff? There's no way. There's no way.
No, absolutely. And there's some beautiful images. And like as much as the electron microscopy book like inspired me, also like at that time, like I must have been around maybe 10, 11 years old. It also freaked me out as well in terms of like, especially when they give the description like, oh, what you're seeing, these are like all the stuff that's crawling all over you, like as all the time.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to hear about that at that time.
That's, you know, what's funny is that's always been like something that that really, it never really weirded me out. Some people it does, but like how much microbes are just kind of like ubiquitous and everywhere. It's like I'd never. It's like kind of, I don't know. I guess I'm not a.
Well, yeah. Now I don't care. I'm sure I've contaminated myself with way more crazy stuff just from lab experience. But like, yeah, at the time when I was 11, just the description is like, oh, you know, all these mites and all these pretty much, you know, a living petri dish all over your stuff.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it's interesting.
I processed that. I remember.
Well, speaking of E. coli and the unforeseen and how they're damaging our world.
True.
Someone in chat said the same thing. Yeah. Greg saw big animals at the zoo, but then inspired him to become a microbiologist. I became a microbiologist not because of like it's more of like seeing like animals as kind of like or organisms as like a 3D printer to kind of like make, you know, food, materials, fuel like inside of them, and it's just fun to change genomes around. That's kind of like why I'm more like a microbiologist, because I love doing molecular biology. If that makes sense. Like I love throwing the ball, so I'm going to be a quarterback. You know what I mean? Like I like to change genomes around, so I'm going to be a microbiologist. If changing genomes around for like humans, like that's impossible. You know, that's never going to happen. In mammals, again, mice, it's going to be really hard. It takes months in order to make a new cell line, a new, or maybe never HeLa cells and stuff we still use, that kind of thing. So that's kind of like what that was the impetus.
That makes total sense.
Anyway, so the New York Times has a story we've been following this, the raw milk producers. A dairy producer in California denies that its products have caused the outbreak, which sickens people in 3 states. This came out just today. For weeks, the FDA has asked a raw dairy farm in California to recall its cheddar cheese, which the agency has linked to 9 E. coli illnesses in California, Texas, and Florida. On Thursday, the dairy farm Raw Farm LLC finally complied, though it said it was doing so under protest as it continued to not deny that its cheese was causing the source of the outbreak. One more paragraph. The recalled products, which include original and jalapeno cheddar. They did it with the jalapeno cheddar. That's what did it. Sold in blocks and shredded.
Jalapeno raw cheddar. You're leaving out the key. Raw cheddar. Raw cheddar.
Yes. And raw jalapeno, man. It's the seed's still in there. That's going to be fiery. Have expired dates between May and September. What? What? Wow, people should check their refrigerators for the recalled cheeses and throw them away. Oh, wow. Wait, May and September of this year, I hope. Like that. Why would anyone have that from last year? Oh my
From what I
God.
understand, like the FDA has been like going back and forth with this company for a while.
Yeah, yeah,
Like the
exactly.
company sort of refused, where like this recall is whatever voluntary, so to speak.
Mhm.
Because like it seems like yeah, that I assume they maybe want to prevent any sort of like legal action or whatnot, or I don't know what actually the steps the FDA can take. But like I think the timeline for this, because like I know that I posted an earlier, well, again, a couple weeks ago, this issue of like a contaminated raw cheddar, and now, and even at that time, this is like 2 weeks ago, it was in that article, like they were going back and forth with the FDA for like weeks, or the FDA was like saying, "Hey, you should recall" or something.
Yeah.
They just consistently refuse because according to the company's testing, like they're saying like all their testing shows that everything is clear and that
Of
the E.
course.
coli infections. Uh,
Yeah, exactly. It says, and it quote, it was a standoff between us and them. Aaron McAfee, the president of Raw Farm, said in an interview referring to the FDA. He ultimately decided to issue the voluntary recall on the advice of his company's lawyers. He said to prevent further damages. It is rare for a company to refuse to recall products linked to an outbreak of foodborne illness when asked to by the FDA. Yeah, dude.
yeah,
Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? He estimated the recall included 170,000 pounds of cheese valued at approximately $1.5 million. That is wild, man. Like, I don't understand how Republicans get away with this stuff so much. Like, remember when they like had a standoff with the federal government in like Oregon when they had like their own, they were like, this is a free area. We claim this land, like sovereign land. And then they had like armed standoffs with federal agents. You guys remember that? Now they're just like,
yeah.
now they're just like, they're like, yeah, I don't care about the FDA. I don't care about you. And FDA is like, whoa, what could we possibly do?
Well, I don't know what the powers are of the FDA. Check your DMs.
Yeah, I just
That's a good
went.
question. That's a good question. What could the FDA do?
Yeah, that's
yeah,
why
so
I was uncertain of like
yeah,
certain
so
people.
my understanding and my please, no one mistake me for an expert on the FDA. But like my understanding is that mostly they like their recalls are voluntary. And that like and it's like usually that's not too much of a problem because like once you like get it out in the news that like your product might be linked to an outbreak, right? Like the company is all too willing to want to like get this sorted out as quickly as possible, to not cause further damage to themselves. Um, but those companies usually don't have like a cultural motivation to like sell their product, right? Like they're
Yeah.
just trying to do business, trying to make a profit, right? Okay, there was a problem here. Let's like get this sorted, and then like back to business. But it's completely different when we're talking about these raw milk individuals. But even then, still, um, you know, like even within that paradigm that was mostly working, right? There's still problems because like um uh we limit the budget of the FDA, right? The budget of its inspectors. Those inspectors are maybe are limited to like scheduled visits rather than being able to like go across all these food producers across the United States. We got a lot of them, right? And do unscheduled visits to like make sure they're supposed to be doing what they're doing. Like it's just not enough manpower to properly regulate all these individuals. So a lot of things go by. And of course, these corporations, to save a buck, will absolutely cut corners. And we can measure those cut corners in lost lives.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
sure.
from what I understand from the article and even the previous article, like the forensic evidence that the FDA like gathered, like I guess is it 100% guaranteed that these E. coli infections are coming from this raw cheddar or this company? I can't say with 100% certainty, but I would say like based off what I've seen of what they outlined, like I think at least 8 out of the 9 individuals like said that they consumed that product. And there's other testing that the FDA did, pretty much like making the link, as in like, DNA sequences from the E. coli and the individual testing that the FDA done. Like, do they have like the smoking gun type of thing? The answer is no. But like, I would say the evidence is pretty hard to deny that there's only so many other places that this could have occurred. And like the fact that the company fought it for so long, because like, you would think most companies, they don't want like the bad PR, but I think this company has a vested interest, understandably, even though I definitely don't think this product should be on the market, but like they want to preserve their image of like, no, there's no possible way that raw cheddar can be contaminated, or any raw dairy product can be contaminated, because that would just be
okay. Yeah, because we don't understand science. But I'd like to, try to shift this conversation a bit, unless you guys had more to say.
No, yeah, please.
And that like use this as a springboard to talk about like how disconnected we are to our food supply, right? This is a conversation. This is not like a new conversation. We've talked about this, in the modern world, especially in urbanized environments, like you're very disconnected. You go to the grocery store and there should be food there. There's no food there. You're usually like, all right, well, that's my first and last idea. It's like, okay, I don't know what to do now.
That's yours, but I see people around me. No,
yeah, exactly. But so, like we are disconnected from this, but like this, like I'm not like so worried about this, right? Because people like make a very big deal out of this, because it's like, okay, well, we should be, have a better idea of our food source, and we should have transparency, certainly. But like, again, if you're in an urbanized environment, like part of the magic of industrialization is that we got to diversify, right? The part of having an organized society is that like, people didn't have to like do all the things they need to do to survive, including growing their own food, like that allowed us to break off and like be specialized in our work, right? So like we can have like a microbiologist, they don't tend, I guess maybe you guys could throw some cultures and see what, like yeast maybe, can
brew all the beer.
Can brew all the beer, yeah, exactly. But other than that, like that like there's advantages of like having farmers do the farming and then like shipping their product to us, right? Okay, but still, I think that this tension between individuals who feel like completely disconnected from their environment in general and society, and then this lack of insight into food, and then this constant drumbeat, because it happens every so often, right? Of these outbreaks. And like these health scares, right? I think I can combine to say to people like, okay, well, I want more control here, right? Again, I won't tell them not that's a bad thing, but like that without a framework as to how to do this productively, I think it leads some of them, right, to things like raw milk. Like this is me taking control of my food supply. Right, like, and look at me. I'm being like an informed consumer because I'm going directly to the farmer, right? And like we've heard this like from for people who look at who indulge in raw milk, right? Like, hey, like I talked to the guy, right, and he told me, he promised me, as a Christian, he says, on my honor as a Christian, I've done the testing. I know my product is safe, and that's good enough for me, right? Like, and this is them being informed, like, and I think like this is what happens when we don't give people a framework. We don't like give them a path to have agency in their life. They like look for other ways to do so, and they may do so in the dumbest possible manner. I
don't disagree with you. And like I can cognitively understand sort of the thought process, especially like our food system is like ultra complex, and like the foods that we have these days is also are also like like without getting into the weeds of like ultra processed foods, but like I can understand the thought process of like someone thinking, and I know that, and everyone here knows that like someone thinking that the ingredients in milk is like whatever, just milk alone. Okay. But then they see a label of like, oh, the ingredients in whatever this cereal. Okay. You have a list of ingredients. And for some people, for whatever reason, for a variety of reasons, like that scares people off. Like, oh, again, going back to basically this chemophobia aspect of like people as a result of maybe being afraid or having some unjustified concerns towards certain processed foods, and like wanted to minimize from their perspective the amount of ingredients or chemicals they consume. They go to things like raw milk because, like, that's in their mind that is like the least processed. That's as close to nature as you can get. So again, by default, it must be safe, as opposed to, again, pick whatever processed food in the grocery store. You have a list of ingredients. I think that's a good thing, and if anything, I think there should be more on the label. But for some people, that scares them off, and so yeah, go with whatever as nature intended. Raw milk straight from like the cow, okay, including all the bacteria and the dirt and the pus as well.
And one other thing to add to that, right? Like on your ingredients thing, like I think on the other side of this, and I think it's honestly scary because, again, it like you're so unsure as a consumer, right? As a health conscious individual, like what causes cancer, right? Like, I mean, we know the memes of like, like, well, anything causes cancer, right? Like, you live long enough, you've heard enough news stories about like each successive study saying X, causes an increase in Y, a type of cancer, right? Or, and then like 2 years later, the exact opposite, right? Oh, yeah, in fact, taking this, some red wine will decrease your, but like the point is that people have so little idea, right? Like of a direct cause. What causes cancer, right? And we know that, like we know there can be dangerous chemicals within our environment that causes cancer. Some of those chemicals are introduced to us by corporations, right? And then, like, we also hear of corporations cutting corners, like I was saying before, right? We see them like substituting high quality products for low quality products. And then, like, we know at some point people have like ingested things like that have caused them cancer. So you add all these things up, and I think it's not illogical to be a bit terrified. Like, okay, like what if I'm looking at the ingredients list that our friend Corey was mentioning, right? Like, what are the things that are most likely to give me cancer? The things that I can recognize, that like I can pronounce, like sugar, right? Is that more likely to give me cancer? Or like dimethyl, like hydrate something? I don't know. Sorry, I don't.
Yeah,
that's it.
Don't embarrass me.
Dimethyl is a thing. Like,
but like, yeah, but like that long like string of chemicals. Which one in my brain is more likely to do that to me, right? To hurt my family. So I don't think it's illogical to have this reaction. It's just that like people are severely uninformed, and by uninformed, I don't mean that like they're ignorant. I mean there is no information and there's no direct links. There's no guidance here, and so it's very, very scary.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And that, like I said, I can understand the thought process of, again, just someone being, scared off or just having a phobia of like, yeah, just seeing a long list of ingredients and chemicals. So like, yeah. And there is that talking point out there, of like, if you, I obviously, I don't agree with it, but like some health influencers or wellness influencers say, if if you can't pronounce the ingredient, then, pretty much, you should not consume that product, or like that. By default, it must be bad. Even though if you actually go into just about any organic molecule's actual IUPAC name, like just what everyone's pronouncing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that's why, again, I understand someone who whatever looks at the ingredient list of raw milk. I can't even imagine what it is. Okay, I imagine whatever it's 2 or 3 things at most, and like thinking, oh well, this is less stuff in there, even though it's not actually true. Because like I consume, obviously, since I'm an imperfect vegan, I consume a lot of vegan content on social media, and I come across some stuff that's fed to me from people that are responding to veganism. As in, there's also this talking point of, one of the talking points is like, the ingredient in meat is only meat, just the one ingredient. And then like all the other ultra processed foods, like vegans consume certain processed foods because like, they have to diversify let's say protein sources. But like the mentality of like, again, number of ingredients and chemical pronunciation seems to be like a big thing, even though if you actually do the full chemical breakdown of any meat, you're going to see a list of things you cannot pronounce. Okay, if I do like a full mass spec and a full chemical analysis of any food product, you're going to get a list of chemicals. It just so happens that you're not obligated to list all the chemicals that are actually in meat or any other, even in a banana or a tomato. Pick whatever food that you want. There's a whole bunch of chemicals in there that virtually nobody can pronounce. But since you don't have to put all of the list of ingredients or all the chemicals inside of a tomato or banana, people just assume that, well, there must be only one ingredient in banana, which is banana stuff or tomato stuff.
Banana.
Yeah, exactly. They just think it's like that is like these people exist out there. The ingredient of banana is just banana. It can't be any other. There's no other chemicals.
The ingredient of human is just human too.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know how to deal with that.
It's tough, man. I mean, I think Prime, I think you're right. Like it's a lot of people taking control but it's like performative control, it's like it's not, I don't know, man. I think it's people kind of being sold and lied to about how like, it's this conspiracy that links this all together, and now they're in the know, and now they're kind of like they're in control now for the first time, and it's like, no, you're actually doing something like more dangerous than you think, but you're being sold that like the pasteurization is what's the dangerous thing, and it's like it's the same thing with vaccines and on the other side, right? So it's like like it's just, and the problem is that people like just see it and they think, oh, this is what I heard about raw milk, so like maybe I'll just try it out, without thinking that it's like, no, it actually is more dangerous, but I just heard it on my algorithm and like, oh, I'll just try it out now. But it's not like there's a warning label. It's not like it's, seen. And then it's just, it's fake, fake control. And it's funny, when we were doing our background analysis for our nonprofit, kind of like seeing and analyzing other nonprofits and how they use rhetoric and how like what their websites look like. What do their, what kind of language are they using? It's all super emotionally charged, like really heavy, very dramatic language, and people get wrapped up in that. They just get wrapped up in that. They don't understand that it's more dangerous,
Yeah, and I definitely agree again with that point of like this is an attempt to regain control, because like, yeah, I can understand someone feeling out of control or a lack of control on like the food that they eat when they walk into a supermarket, just being overwhelmed.
Yeah.
These days, like, yeah, you to actually, if you really want to like understand everything that in the food that you consume and read every ingredient label, like, that'll take you forever to do any sort of grocery shopping. Even though I would say, I assume, I don't know for sure, but I think I'm more equipped than the average person to read an ingredient label. But even I myself don't read like the ingredient labels on most of the things that I buy, and I buy a bunch of processed stuff. I have no problem saying that either. And it's like, yeah, it is overwhelming, which I understand. But then, yeah, go ahead, Brian. I was going to ask a question in terms of like, you mentioned sort of like that from the beginning, like this aspect of pretty much, I think, a lack of transparency. But like, do you have something in mind in terms of like what you would want to see or what changes you want to make when it comes to, let's say, our food supply and all that stuff?
Me?
Or yeah.
It's not something I've put so much thought into, but like I would just the top of my head, right? I think I think food labels are fantastic, though. I think maybe I've heard some criticisms about them, about like, what's included, what's not included, right? Like what has to be there and what doesn't, and that like leaves loopholes for companies to, be a bit more deceptive, right? Like I like the whole thing on like labeling. And here's something we might actually have a discussion on. It's like labeling of um, uh, genetically processed, genetically enhanced foods, right?
Mhm.
Like I'm not necessarily against them, but like,
Mhm.
if someone wants to be informed, right, they should be informed. I don't see why we shouldn't let people know, hey, this is what it is, right? And then you can make a decision for yourself. But so like be very clear. Oh, and have like clear standards for like what can be labeled as what, right? Like
Mhm.
I think we talked about it before about like things being labeled as organic, like if there is some sort of buzzword or something being attached, right? Like, well, let's make sure this is consistent so that consumers have an idea. So there's that. And then I mean, like if we wanted to really go crazy with it, right? Like, I mean, we have the internet and we have like these like there's these logistical chains, right, that are largely invisible to us. I mean, why shouldn't we have a bit more idea as to like how our food gets to our plate, right? Like we could have websites that like track all these products, right? Um, maybe some information might be proprietary, so like maybe some things might not shouldn't be said. I'm willing to like let me give a little space for that, but I think for the most part we should be able to see these logistical chains, right? Like where warehouses your food came from, down to if it came from a farm, like which farm, at least part of it, right? Because sometimes there's like a slurry of things that are in a package, But you get where I'm saying, right? Like what conglomerate provided this, like and just like have a deeper understanding as to how these things work, and maybe have confidence that these things are actually being checked for safety. So like yeah, because like I pick up a package at the grocery store, like I'm assuming it's all good, right? Like I'm assuming it was a safe like chain that put this in my hands, but I have no idea, no clue, right? And so maybe that'd be helpful. I hope it would be helpful, but I don't know. Yeah. Did you guys have any thoughts on that then?
Yeah, I mean that's what the
Yeah.
FDA is for, right? I mean that's the whole idea of the FDA being able to like check that stuff and regulate that stuff, making sure that it is like safe and transparent. I think like the FDA, I mean, notoriously in the United States, it's very cautious, like extremely cautious. So, but we do
More
have like
business
out,
friendly than anything else. Yeah.
yeah. And so, if something's legal in the United States, it's usually that's why people other places like use it, so much. But you're right, and there are those outliers where it's like the genetically modified foods are not allowed in Europe, and they are in the United States. In regards to like labeling it, I mean the problem with labeling is like so there was the label of like GMO on everything, but now everything's just genetically engineered product. So it's like or bioengineered product. You get that too. So it's like you can kind of like get
Consistent
around.
labeling.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
very
that's what I'm saying. It has
yeah
to be. Yeah.
yeah. So it is it can be tough, man. I think I think making like the process more like the FDA, like more transparent might be good. The tests that they do, just like would help people with at least have more evidence for science communicators and just talking about vaccines and stuff like that. For example, like knowing that like what the actual process is. I think that would be good. But yeah, I think in terms of transparency, that's where I would start.
With the genetically modified label, I'm not opposed to it, but I do think there's the potential for the kind of like fear mongering, or let's say if there was a PR campaign to like actually demonstrate, well, or rather to get the message across that people should not necessarily, or like the fear towards genetically modified foods or organisms is as of now unjustified. I'm not saying that every single genetically modified food in the future is going to be safe, but as of now, I think they have like one of the one of the safest track records so far. As in, I don't think there's been any genetically modified food or organism that has been linked to any in the food supply that has been linked to any sort of like negative outcome, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
But
like, go ahead.
But there are people out there. I imagine it overlaps with the crowd of these people that consume raw milk, of like just this aversion to genetically, and there is the question that I think is a valid question of like, what does it mean to genetically modify? I can make the case that, but bananas are genetically modified. Are they genetically modified in the way that we do in the lab? The answer is no, but they are definitely genetically modified or genetically selected and modified over time.
Exactly.
So, unless you're going to like really define of like what it is to be genetically modified, which I think might be difficult to do. I think it might be hard to, one, come up with an appropriate label, or you might have to have diversity of labels of like genetically modified, genetically engineered, or, artificially selected, which that might result in confusion, even more confusion in the consumer. Like, what do all these labels mean?
Yeah, exactly.
All that to say, I'm not against it in principle. I just have the potential concern of like fear mongering, or unjustified fear of having that label on the food, and people just saying, just like people automatically assume that organic is good. Okay, even though you should not make that assumption. There's the opposite of like, genetically modified must be bad type of thing.
So in the United States, like the rules and regulations is like, if you let's say as a scientist, like I need to make some changes in a genome, I need to know whether or not those changes were made or not. So what we do is like we add a resistance marker in, it's called. And the resistance marker, like basically I can see what made changes to their genome and what didn't, by seeing if that marker is there. So it's kind of like a flag that kind of like waves up, and we can kind of see, okay, that organism has this thing, and now we're going to go forward with that. And then what you can do is you can just excise that little marker, and you can make the changes, make it better, and then take it out, and then revert the genome basically like to the old wild type kind of like version if you really wanted to. And that process, if you start with the wild type strain, genetically modify something to change its genome, and then revert it back so that it's the exact same genome than that it was before. In the United States, that's actually considered non-GMO. So that's like that is considered genetically modifying. But
I'm not sure that I would buy that.
But in Europe, they have a no genetic modification at all in any time historically in that strain ever. So that would actually be a genetically modified organism in Europe.
Yeah, that is interesting. And I personally would make the case of like that is genetically modified. I understand the point that at the end of the day, the DNA sequence is the DNA sequence, and it remains unchanged in the end. But you're still.
What would the case be?
I would say if you are carrying out molecular biology on an organism at the level of the genes, you are genetically modifying it. You can't not. You just happen to be genetically modified to a thing and then changing it back. Type of thing. That's all.
But yeah. Like you hit the reset button. Basically, what it sounds like our friend Dr. Craig is saying, right? Hit the reset button and it's back. Like, and the end result, the thing that's being delivered to the customer, right? Like that's not genetically modified. Like, do you still think that's genetically modified, even though like it's genetically identical to a strain that wasn't?
Well, yeah, that's why I don't really like the term, because like genetically modified is like an umbrella term that encompasses what Greg just described. And I can genetically modify a food to produce a poison. That's not a problem. Okay. Just like we do all that you just said.
That's a threat, everyone. Go ahead.
I'm also getting into the raw cheddar industry as well. But like, that's why like I don't like this, because like you can genetically modify something for the benefits, or someone nefarious can genetically modify it, to do something bad. But like in principle, like at least just from my perspective, like regardless of what the DNA, the end result of the DNA sequence is, like when I'm having a conversation with other molecular biologists, like they're not gonna, if I'm using this term genetically modified, like they're going to assume I carried out some sort of technique that manipulates the genome. it does not matter what the outcome is. Like just like I can change a DNA sequence and have no effect whatsoever on like what the like on any measurable chemical outcome. Like the proteins that it produces the same, the chemicals it produces the same. You know this in terms of base substitution, right? And like not changing anything. Like I can do that, but and I don't think any scientist would say that means that organism is not genetically modified. But maybe Greg would disagree with me there.
I would say that it is genetically modified. We're just good enough to know how to hide it.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
Yeah, like we know, we understand.
I understand from the consumer level.
Yeah,
that is genetically that's not genetically modified. But I think every biochemist and microbiologist would say like even just like a base substitution that results in no change in the amino acid sequence is a genetic modification. Like no matter what.
Yeah, we know how to. We know what's going on. We know how to like manipulate it well enough. I mean, that's the reason like we are so good at. We understand this stuff really, really well. Like in my debate with Ken Oven this week, he was like talking about how DNA is irreducible to complex. We have no idea how it works and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, bro, this is like literally my job. This is what I do. Like we genetically modify things all the time. Like this is
well, from his perspective, he has no idea how.
Yeah, exactly. So
despite debating for 40 years, he's taken no time to learn anything.
Exactly, man. So it's funny, but yeah, we're really good at molecular biologists, especially with next generation sequencing now. Like we're really good at messing with the things and changing things around in a good way. Like in a good way, like we're going to have more nutritious crops. We're going to have plants that can like live in salt environments, like where you wouldn't be able to grow a plant, but now you can because they can actually grow in salted, which happens a lot in a lot of runoff and stuff. You get a lot of salt accumulation in the soils. You get like arid environments. You could have heat shock proteins in the plants. Like there's lots of different ways that we are making plants a lot better. So, and like if we just didn't do any genetically modification, all you're saying is like I just want like food to be way more expensive. That's basically it.
I mean, you guys are making a case as to like why labeling could be quite problematic. I feel like this is not an impossible problem to solve, right? Like we can.
I agree. It's not impossible.
It's just like confusing. It can be confusing, and people can get. It's like organic. Organic is a great thing. Example. Everyone thinks that like organic is like just no pesticides, no hormones, just plant matter, and it's like that's not true at all. There's tons of pesticides used, tons that are used in organic farming, more so than actual genetically modified farming. So it's pretty wild.
Does it piss you scientists off that they use the term organic?
Yes, I hate it for myself, but yes, it annoys me.
Honestly, bro, I think there's few times in my scientific career where I was like, damn, we really should have like fought harder. And I feel like genetically organic was one of them where like we should have, as the scientific community, we should have pressed way harder to say like, no, this is not okay. Like you're wrong here. Like the organic means nothing. But instead it was just like oh, well, you can have that. You can lie, that's okay. And look where we are, and people are, I think there's a direct line between organic food and Maha. Like there's just it's a direct line. It's not even a conspiracy.
Yeah, and maybe I'm biased as a scientist, but I do take issue with the public, sort of co-opting our terminology, or even not appreciating the terminology. That
organic, like almost everything else in this world, like that you interact with. Like, okay, it's just like it just bothers me that like a misappropriation of this term and into it, it's not very helpful, like especially in conversations. Like and I think it just adds to the confusion, like because when you hear organic in other contexts, you might be mistaken as to what that means, how it applies to the food supply or anything like that. I don't know. I just don't think it's pretty bad.
Yeah, and actually to sort of maybe bolster my point, that again, I see value in extra labeling, and again, I'm not fundamentally in principle against labeling genetically modified organisms or foods, but I do think that has to be done in an appropriate way. But like the example that comes to mind right now is like eggs. Okay, like I don't really buy eggs, but like when I go to the grocery store, like I see like there's cage free, there's free range, there's organic, and it's like I don't know what all these terms. If I were to buy eggs, I would want it to buy eggs that I know that the chicken has the ability to like run around in the field, but I don't know like what does cage free mean? Like they're in a box and that's cage free? I don't know. What is free range? What is organic? I'm pretty sure there's even other labels that I just haven't seen yet on eggs, and it's like
you should be able to go to the FDA or whatever the authority is in your nation, right, and like get the exact definition, and if that label is on the product and it doesn't meet that definition, there should be consequences for them, right?
But just imagine. I mean, just imagine like all your food labels. Now it's like, okay, so now for my ingredients list, I have 3S, 4R, 5R, 1, 3, 4, 5, 6 pentahydroxyl hexan 2, 1. And you're like, oh my God, what is that? And it's like, oh, it's just fructose. Like if you just get like really, you can really get, it can get confusing to a lot of people. I think it's better to have like, through institutions and to have like experts kind of like decide this stuff. You should like be more technocratic about it. You don't have to be an expert about everything. You don't have to be an expert. You can have like, and democratically, have like, go through the FDA. The problem inherently, honestly, the problem, like the Maha movement, if they just put RFK in charge and then was like, well, we don't have any studies to prove what we're doing, and just use studies or just funded studies in order to check it out and like see what it was going. I honestly wouldn't even have that many problems with it. The problem is that they are going in without any science, without any studies, without even like doing anything, and they're just whole swath like cutting the science away.
So it's antagonistic to it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like if we were just going to, if it through democratic means, if we were like, we want more, we want to change the FDA and make it more like personally, I want the FDA to be more laissez-faire, to be honest with you. Like I want it to be more like experimental. I want to be like a little bit more libertarian in like what I can like have and have in my body. And like, I'm okay with that, So, but again, it's like dangers, public health, that kind of stuff. And what's happening is like the opposite of that. We have like more danger, more harm, less studies. It's hurting people.
Do you guys think, sorry, you go first.
I was going to clarify of, when you say you want, the FDA to be more laissez-faire. Well, first, I appreciate the French as a Quebecer. But, do you mean like as in like be less restrictive in like what they more permissive in what they approve, or like the barrier to get something approved should be lower, or something else? I mean, I know several studies, like several professors that I knew had like several. Like one of them was like they made a polymer. You'd like this, Corey. There's a chemist, and she made a acetaminophen polymer so that when the glue for don't tell RFK that they made.
I know exactly. But the idea was the acetaminophen was the glue for surgery, so that when it was a really right where you need it, the inflammation right where you got cut, right there, as opposed to systemically giving it to someone. She created it, through her PhD and postdoc work, and then it got approved everywhere in the world except for the FDA here. So it's like there's ways to like, have other, there's experimental ways like to, different types of medicines and stuff that we could definitely be okay with having. I think, being a little bit more okay and open with that. And obviously I think like recreationally, like recreational stuff should be like legal. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about.
Although correct me if I'm wrong, like the legality of, let's say, I don't know, let's use psychedelics as an example. Like, is that part of the purview or the scope of the FDA, or that's more of like illegal? Yeah,
I think that's the D, right? The Food and Drug Administration. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that it's like whether or not where it's regulated in it. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe it might be the Justice Department that comes in, but it's pretty sure it's the FDA that says like what the scheduling. Who sets the scheduling? I thought the whole point of the scheduling was them saying that it's like there's no medical use whatsoever.
That scheduling. I think that's Congress. I mean, I think that's why you can't just like get marijuana moved from Schedule 1 down to.
I think I could be misremembering, but I think like
Biden
the DEA.
Said that he would. Sorry, that's the DEA. Okay, my bad.
But yeah, but I'm not opposed. Like, I'm definitely not opposed to that in terms of like, I think bare minimum drugs should be, or let's say drugs like psychedelics and cannabis. Well, the United States should follow in Canada's footsteps of what Canada's done with cannabis.
Biden was an effing liar about that, like rescheduling marijuana. He said he was going to do it, then he never did it. But like, I wasn't surprised that he didn't want to do it because he's always been like specifically against marijuana. Like he's had a campaign against it. He did that thing at the very start of his presidency where he had like a questionnaire go around to his White House staff. And in that questionnaire is like, oh, well, have you ever, partaken in marijuana? And like, it was made clear to people before that, oh, there'll be no consequences if you answer honestly here. People answer honestly, then they were fired for it. So like, but he's been a crusader on this thing like forever. So like when he said like that he was going to change the scheduling on this, like I was shocked at first, and a friend of mine like really believed him. And didn't happen. And then I think Trump has said he was going to change the scheduling.
I believe that's been floated, around.
Yeah, and this is something they just float to like get like popular support. Oh, like the kids like the pot, so like jangle this in front of their faces. But it's still, we don't have. I mean, and what we're talking about here are like boomer politicians. So I think maybe
I think even older than. But I understand. But like, yeah, I agree. Biden is super old, and like I think it's just like the older generation, like they just have bought into the paranoia. Like, yeah, cannabis is going to ruin your life. They bought into the ads of this is your brain on drugs with the frying pan and the egg type of stuff.
Yeah. But I wanted to try to expand. Well, we don't have to go too deep into this, but like I guess I just wanted to make a comment that like. I brought up about like people like looking for some more control in their life, and then like because they don't have a framework to do so, they end up like going down improper paths, being like raw milk. But raw milk in the end is just a scam, right? Like I think we can all accept that, just a freaking scam. But like you see this all the time, right? You see scammers do exactly this, and it's not just within the health context, right? Like I was watching a video about and it was like a Bitcoin. It was Bitcoin actually, specifically like a cryptocurrency like seminars, right? Like how they were going to change your life through cryptocurrency. And you hear this in scams all the time. They talk about how you get to take control, right? Finally take economic control. You get to make the decisions in your life. I think the reason why that resonates so powerfully, at least for Americans, I can't speak for the rest of the world, but at least for Americans, like so many of us feel like completely disempowered, right? Like we feel economically disempowered. We feel that we can't stand up for ourselves in work, right? Where we can be oftentimes abused in a myriad of different ways. We're not empowered in terms of civil society, where interaction with the cops can be quite dangerous. We're not empowered in terms of government, where we feel like our votes don't matter. Like all these things. Like, so when someone tells you, "Oh, you get to be empowered now," and the only way that you can think of actually being empowered is just like having a lot of money, right? Then it's very attractive. And so people get pulled into that. Like, finally, yes, I can have a level of control in my life. Even though, again, these places aren't the way to do it. I think a better way would be, and it's less sexy, but like through organizing. I've talked about it before, but like, like organizing a neighborhood and be able to take on like problems within your local area, right? Even up to the municipal level or the state level, like our friend Dr. Greg has been doing, right, through his projects. Like, I think that's also quite empowering, right? I think I said that to you, Dr. Greg, when we first talked about the project that you're working on. How like I love how you're empowering people to like take a bit of action. That like it's just kind of be life changing for people, because again, your whole life there's very little like big decision that you can make if you're not a person of any particular wealth. So the point is, without like moving too far, is that like I think this is a perfect place, a perfect avenue for scammers. They understand this, how people are disempowered, and so this is an avenue they'll use, and it'll come out in different ways, right? One, it could be from crypto, or it could be from like a those Mary Kay like a pyramid schemes type thing, right? Or it could be raw milk.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Just to correct myself, sorry, I was misremembering it. Her name's Catherine Urich. She's an amazing chemist at UCR. She's the dean of natural sciences and stuff. She did. I misremembered. It was salicylic acid, aspirin, not Tylenol. So my bad. But yeah, that was
still an NSAID.
Yeah, it was a polymer. For biodegradable sutures. So yeah, check her out. Yeah, Catherine Urich. Anyway.
But yeah, I agree. Just like how whatever a lot of marketing campaigns from products prey on people's insecurities. These scammers, like crypto scammers, prey on people who understandably feel disempowered and disenfranchised. Where it's like, same thing with many things. So why do incels flock to whatever Andrew Tate? Like there's something there that they're sort of preying upon or exploiting. And so that's why, like, again, as much as I disagree with it, I think it's awful. I do understand why people gravitate to things like raw milk as a way to exercise some sort of control, or pretty much just like to soothe themselves, thinking they're doing good when they're ultimately doing not good to themselves.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you guys have anything else to say on this one? I was thinking about the second article.
On my end, not for this particular topic.
So they're coming out with the new budget, guys. It's not looking good for science. I don't know why I'm laughing, but it's just like so ridiculous how these guys are just so hell-bent on destroying science in this country. I can't, it's unfathomable to me. But basically, science advocates are urging Congress to reject the 2027 budget plan. So basically, it was unveiled today. For the second straight year, the White House is asking Congress to make deep cuts to federal research spending, including a 55% cut to the National Science Foundation, a 23% cut to NASA, a 15% cut to the Department of Energy, Office of Space, and a 12% cut to the National Institutes of Health. The plan also calls for eliminating a host of programs that focus on climate change and the environment. Which is funny considering how what they've been letting go. But anyway, whatever. And limiting agency spending on publishing scientific papers and subscribing to journals, because why would we need those? Why would we need that earlier this year, lawmakers largely rejected similar steep cuts that were requested by Trump in 2026. But we'll just have to see. I mean, they are never passing budgets nowadays. That doesn't happen. It's just by budget reconciliation. But it'll be interesting to see kind of like what it is. The science cuts are part of an overall spending blueprint that calls for hefty increases for defense spending, while cutting outlays for civilian programs. Federal discretionary spending, the roughly 1/4 of the annual budget that is set by Congress, would rise by nearly 40%, from roughly 1.6 trillion to 2.2 trillion, to accommodate the 40% rise in defense spending. Spending on non-defense programs, including science, would drop by 10% to $660 billion. That's it. That is wild. That is so crazy.
Yeah, obviously I am not in favor of about 99.9% of this. And I hope, Congress rejects it like they did, I believe, last time when something similar was proposed by the Trump administration. But I do think there's one thing to maybe talk about, like what you mentioned in regards to the journal subscriptions. That is actually something I'm quite open to, and actually maybe partial towards. Like they do outline. It's like they don't want to include in the budget, or pretty much they want to not have money going to these journals to pay just for subscriptions. And I think the logic behind it is because, like, if this is publicly funded science, then that should be publicly available science. And I'm overall in board with that. But again, I think this should be rejected. But if somewhere down the road through a separate process, that little modification occurs, I would actually be more or less in favor of that. But maybe
Crazy,
you disagree,
man.
Greg.
It's crazy. I mean, it's kind of like a really sharp instrument is really okay in the hands of a surgeon, but really not okay in the hands of a madman. You know what I mean? It's like, in theory, I think that it could be okay. It's okay in order to do this, but like with what they're doing, like with it and why they're doing it, I think is more like important. And it's like, I don't trust them at all. I don't think that they're doing it for the right reason. I think that they're just trying to cut like whatever they can. I in theory, I agree with you.
I don't disagree with that.
I tried to publish only in open source journals. The problem is that it's so expensive.
That, I believe, generally.
It's so expensive, dude. We're talking like 10 grand. Yeah, I mean, you're still paying like $3 to $5 grand in order to publish in a journal. So it's like, okay, so if you're gonna say that I can only publish in open source journals, then okay, now all the grants are just, you're going to need $5,000 more in order to publish in that. And it's like,
well, there might be a greater conversation to be had maybe sometime in the future of like, I'm also not necessarily in favor, let's say in our current system, do I favor open source journals over things like, do I prefer, let's say, PLOS ONE over, Nature and Science? Overall, yes. But like my idea, or at least what I envision or what I hope somewhere down the line is like, we don't have, or rather there's some sort of other way for publicly funded scientists to get their data out there to the public, as opposed to our current publishing model. So again, I agree with you that I don't trust this administration, one, to do it properly, and two, for the right reasons.
Yeah.
But if somewhere down the line, an administration more competent and for the right reasons does make this modification, again, I'm, as of now, I lean towards doing that, and then some other method, or like, I don't see why there can't just be, someone can correct me, but I don't see why it would be impossible to have, a government-funded journal where public, journals.
Yeah, that's in my. I think that we should have basically a public option for social media and for like science publishing. So basically a way, based off of the First Amendment, in order, like we, the First Amendment allows you to speak your truth, right? So then if that's the true, protected speech, then we should have a platform on the internet, which is how the reality is said and the arguments are construed. You should have that ability on the internet. But with the caveat meaning that you need to have verified ID, you need to have, and like you're going to be held to things because it's not going to be anonymous. You're going to be like absolutely persecuted under the law for things that you violate your First Amendment rights like for. And in that purview, if we could like get some some journals like publishing out of it, I would be okay with it. But gosh, man, the NSF budget, this is insanity. Nearly mirroring his 2026 request in 2027, Trump wants to slash NSF's $9 billion. That's it, $9 billion budget by more than half to $4 billion. That is unfathomably small. $9 billion for the National Science Foundation? Like, what?
Yeah. It's crazy how small that number is, and in my idea with how much bigger that number should be. Even I think 9 billion is small, but even slashing that even further, and that again, that represents like the tiniest of drop in the bucket. Like I don't think there's any reason why it has to be like that low.
So
to cut even
last week I was like, I wanted to see, I was thinking about the debt, like genuinely, I'm like, what is going on here?
Like daily.
I mean, like, I wanted to see how much of it was hysterics. You know what I mean? Like genuinely, like, could you actually balance this budget? Could you like understand, like, how could you do it? So I made a game. It's called Simecon.app. I actually posted it in the DMs and stuff. It's really interesting. It's honestly really interesting.
Did you code this?
Yes, I did. Yes. It took me like 3 days to do, but yeah, I think it's interesting, man. It's an interesting, like, way of like seeing, like, honestly, how easily the $36 trillion, debt goes away. And like this whole notion of like, we have to cut science, like, in order to, pay for this stuff is just so BS. Like it's so simple, like genuinely, you just have to tax billionaires. Like that's basically it. So, yeah. And, but yeah, I mean, it's just, actually there's some options in the game to see, to increase, like to do moonshot stuff, like increase it to 200, increase it by $200 billion, to see if you can actually pay for it. And you can, like, you definitely can, man. It's a choice that we're making. It's not like this apocalyptic, thing that we're looking at. It's just the refusal to tax people.
And I think the data, I think we have pretty robust and consistent data demonstrating that like funding science leads to like long-term gains. It's just like, it's almost like a no-brainer at this point. And again, my overall like consistent talking point is like, no, just look at what other countries are doing, or let's say, look what China is doing. Like China, I think, does want to surpass the United States, and they're investing heavily in their science and technology. And like, I think there are reasons for that.
And we could too, like there's no reason that we couldn't, it's crazy.
And especially this is all in, as mentioned in the article, and as you brought up, like they're cutting NASA funding even further. Like, and this is all in the shadow of like the Artemis 2 launch just like a couple of days ago, right? Like that should be like a huge, if anything, that should be like justify funding NASA even further.
That was probably planned under the Biden administration.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. They plan these things well in advance. I think people are linking these things, and I mean, you should, for like, only to the extent that like, hey, look what this investment has allowed us to do, but not in the sense that, like we had this launch, but now you're trying to cut, right? Like, why aren't you investing in this program that like you had something to do with? You're like Donald Trump doesn't care anything about this. but to be fair, right, like this dismantling of NASA has been a bipartisan thing. Obama, retiring the space shuttle, and then like opening it up to the private market, like giving us, SpaceX, right? Like rather than NASA doing the thing that it's been doing perfectly. I don't mind like private companies jumping into the field, right? Like if sure, but like you don't have to do it with public money, right? And that's what SpaceX is. It's like a parasite on the public funds, right? On our treasury, just taking public money to do its operations. Where almost all its money comes from is from taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, dude.
So
Tesla, SpaceX, like Elon Musk gets $200 billion and every year from government programs. It's like, it's
exactly
wild,
right?
man. It is
So
wild.
like it's and remember they'll call you, right? They'll call like in case she ever needs it, your wife, a welfare queen,
Mhm.
if she ever needs public assistance. And this joker builds his whole fortune on public funds, right? No, I guess it's fine when he does it.
Yeah, user. He's the number one recipient of government programs. Like he's the number one, like the Tesla and SpaceX. He's the number one recipient of those money. It's like it's just insane.
And so like I just feel um yeah, NASA being a perfect example of an agency that has given us so much in terms of science that's performed, right? Not just like landing on the moon, but in terms of satellites, in terms of like weather tracking, right? Like in terms of communications, it's like it's been so worth it to like and invest in this, right? Like there's some sort of figure. I don't know what it is, so don't quote me on it. But like like every $1 invested in the sciences is like $3 coming out or something like that. Right? Like you get it's just so energetically productive to be investing in these spaces, in these places. Excuse me. But we got know nothings in office who want to cut there, but also again, like I said, this is bipartisan. Where I don't know what Obama and Biden's record specific on like the NSF or anything like that, or the NIH.
Well, because he did the sequestration at the end, so he actually it was Obama was bad because of that, because they basically cut all federal government programs by like 10% across the board. So he's like uniquely bad about that one. But yeah. Before it was like, like we're not basically like keeping up with inflation for the NASA, amounts. Like we're not versus if you wanted to compare like the percentage of science spending versus the budget, it was like high during like the space race period, goes down, and then it actually increases dramatically under Biden. Biden was, if you take out the $100 billion from the DoD for, which is actually where most of our science spending comes from. It comes from the DoD.
Exactly.
$100 billion there, and then basically everything else together. All the alphabet agencies are all about $90 billion. And then, but then because of the Inflation Reduction Act, because of the infrastructure bill, because of the Chips and Science Act, like putting hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars into science and engineering, we actually, for the first time it was like 2022 or something, we actually spent more on research and science and engineering than we did the budget for the defense budget. I did the math and I like added it up like line by line myself just to see. It was crazy. But the problem is all that money that that Biden passed, $400 billion of it was basically in a carbon credits and green technology, that could be done, and it's gone now because of the Build Back Better, the BBB, Big Beautiful Bill.
So I would definitely want actual direct investment, but still, like that doesn't mean it was a bad thing. It's just like I would like direct investments. And And like this country, it's like this is a pattern, right? Like the space race. Like, why did we do it, right? Did the leaders at the time had a passion for the moon? No, everyone thought this was a crazy idea. I mean, John F. Kennedy, he made the speech, right? And so that put pressure after he was assassinated. So there's that. But also there was, a great powers competition with Russia,
Yep,
right? And it
100%.
became pictured under national security, right? That this is why we should make this investment. When you pitch things as national security, as you were just alluding, right? That's when this government opens up, and I mean this government, I mean like throughout time, right? Has opened up the pocketbook for investment, and so things have to be put in those terms. But like it's just so foolish. I mean, I think even with our investment into our public universities, right? Like
Mhm.
that was, more of a competition thing, or less we got to educate this populace. It's so important to have all these universities there. But that, it was one of the reasons why we were so far ahead of the rest of the world, having such an incredibly educated workforce, well educated, world class universities. That is, I mean, you can't put a dollar sign on how useful that is and how energetic that is for our economy. But still, throughout the decades, we cut from the public university system. We cut from the research budgets, right? And then we wonder, well, why isn't America being as um, innovative, right? As it was before. And there's a whole bunch of reasons for that. But like part of it, yeah, we're not investing in the people, and we're not investing in the scientists and the science and the equipment. We're not doing all these things, building infrastructure. Other countries understand this. Saw our model, saw how useful it was, and they're trying their best, right? They just don't have the funds to do it on the scale that we have, and they don't have necessarily the minds, right, who are flocking there.
Mhm.
But we're doing everything we can to give them that outflow of brain power right now. And I think we talked about it before, but I think for decades we'll feel the impact of what's happening right now. And this budget is just another example of that, where we're just constantly showing that these things are important. Instead, the thing that is important is another war in the Middle East, right? And so that's where our money should be going.
Whoa, not a war, right? Even
Not a war, excuse me. Yeah.
Dude, that's
even,
awesome.
I
Sorry.
think even during his 20-minute speech a few days ago, the Trump seemed to be
Not
careful
at all
not.
worth watching. Yeah,
Yeah, and I agree, not at all worth watching. But I did find it funny that when he was trying to funny in a bad way, okay, but where he was trying to, it seems like he was trying to, reassure the American people, because he brought up this military excursion in Iran, if you compare it to, I think he compared to World War II, and other wars, like the Vietnam War. But it's well, if this is not a war, why are you comparing it to all these other wars? But then he just goes back, well, no, it's not a war. I found that, yeah, very interesting. But all that to say is, I absolutely agree with you. And maybe the one glimmer of hope is, again, going back to China, I believe China, has their own sort of ambitions to go to space and the moon, and if China is I think if China is seen as a competition of, let's say, I wonder what if there would be any sort of reaction of if China ends up returning to the moon before the United States, would the United States view that as a loss, or would that spur the United States to actually
I think we need a hardcore cope. I think we would a hardcore cope. But in fact, we didn't really want the moon anyway. We didn't need it.
It's made out of cheap ways. Who wants that?
But how can it not be cheap energy or something? You know what I mean? Why? This is what I don't understand. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer on the NASA stuff. And everyone's so excited about things, and I'm just how are we excited about all this money for space and stuff when it's we're cutting $500 million for anti-cancer medicine? You know what I mean? I'm
Here's the problem. Here's the problem with that type of thinking. Because
Help me.
like let's not pit like NASA funding against like the cancer funding, right?
Okay.
That we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Both of these are the sciences, right? The real problem is like literally the defense budget is going to increase by 42%, like right there, right? In service of a war, and additional supplemental funding coming on top of that. My understanding, 350 billion on top of it. So it's like in total, that would be like almost a $2 trillion budget, right? That would be the problem. The problem is the fact that we're starting this war like right now. Like the problem is that we're not taking the time, like we've been saying before, to invest in these things. Doesn't have to be a tension between NASA and the cancer research, right? I think they want us to feel like there's a tension there, and so you get the scientists fighting each other. Let's stay united on this, right? Like these investments in each of these areas, right, can yield like fantastic results, useful results in the end. And in terms of NASA, right? Really with the space program. So like, I think, you know, there's I think there's a fair argument talking about, like, what's the point of like sending our people back there, right? Like Elon's like pretending he's going to build like a space base or a moon base there, right? And then he's going to build AI data centers on there and then launch. It's like so fucking.
And don't forget that he's changed his plans from Mars to the moon, because I think he's recognized, oh, maybe I can't make it to Mars anytime
exactly
soon.
Right. So like it's nonsense, right? But like ignore that part. But I want to relate this conversation to at the very start, you know, of the stream in case people weren't here. When our friend Dr. Greg talked about how he was inspired, right, at least partly inspired, to go down his path through like visiting the zoo, right? Like how that inspired you to, you know, start your career, right, with tiny animals, not big ones. We're too scared of those. But like the investment in that, like these moments in time where you can see the science, right? Because remember I like mentioned all those like scientific advancements and investments that NASA has brought, right? Like that has enriched us. That's not visible, right? These things aren't visible to people, but like rockets going in the air, right? Like how many people like tuned in to see the Artemis launch, right? That inspired a group of kids. Right, inspired them, and those are going to be our next engineers, our next physicists, right? And our less, you know, like science, like communicators. They're going to be inspired by that. So, like, literally, just for this alone, I'd say that's worth it, right? Like, that's literally what happened. There's a generation of scientists who came out of, right, people like sitting down and watching the moon landing. Right, like they like it blew their minds. We did this thing, right? Now I want to do more of this, and again, I don't think we can put a price tag as to how useful that was to us later on, right? We don't know about all the inventions and all the work they've done, creating the products that we're probably using right now today. So yeah, these things aren't in contention. So I won't.
So Dr. Keisha Davis is in chat. So thank you for being here, Dr. Keisha Davis. She was saying the sciences aren't fighting each other, but people fail to forget our taxes go into Medicare and Medicaid. Certain parts of healthcare have to be covered first. So what do you? I mean, I think like I think like I don't know. The problem is that it's a false dichotomy, like choice, right? We don't have the choice of like where can we spend this money? It's like already going, and it's like, do we just cut everything? You know, like we're not gonna, we don't have the choice to cut the NASA funding and put it over into Medicare and Medicaid and save those hospitals and those people's insurance premiums and stuff like that. I mean, because it's like it's so toxic and awful. But man, it's just I do feel like there is an input, there is like a priority, like and I don't know. I do think NASA obviously is cool, and you're right that the silicone chip came from it. The GPS, you know, all these huge advancements like all came from NASA, and we should have that. It's not like an either or thing, but it's like in a time when things are so strapped, I'm just like, man, we're spending money on this though. I don't know. It's just. I don't know. I guess I'm jealous. Again, I'm jealous. That's what I'm jealous. That's the thing.
I like if we don't spend it, like others will, and they will in these particular areas, and we'll be falling behind more than we are so already.
Hmm.
Like again, like NASA, right, and spending on the sciences in general, like you get more money out of it than you put in, right? Like
Yeah, for sure.
it multiplies money. It is an actual factual investment that pays out. The thing is, again, like we don't often get to see as citizens, like how like this pays, like what does it look like? What did we get for our money? Right.
Hmm.
Again, I think a rocket launch is a perfect example, a visible example. Like, and I think, was I talking to you guys about this last week about the submerged state? I think I mentioned it, but in any case, the point is that people don't know, just in general. So, like, moving away from
All the
science.
stuff like happening behind the scenes that people don't like, all the infrastructure and the institutions,
Yeah,
undergirding pretty much the entire country. Right.
all yeah, exactly. Right. So, moving away from the sciences in particular, right? Like, people don't know how much, right, of our the world around them, their local environment is affected by the government. How much is due to investments, either in the past or ongoing funding, right? And so when these things get cut,
Hmm.
they are like unsure, like they don't know what's going on. Something is breaking, something is wrong, but they don't really know where to fix it, right? They don't know how many businesses are get like funding either through contracts or through subsidies, through programs that allow them to keep on going. Some of those companies may be employing them, So these things are invisible to most. And so when they're threatened through a budgetary process like the what we're seeing right now, they don't know what's coming down the pipe. They don't understand like what could be happening, but they might support politicians who are going to make those cuts any which way. So again, that should be our focus, right?
Hmm.
Is to say like what gets priority. The sciences, it should be absolutely a thing that gets priority. The healthcare of our citizens should be a thing that gets priority, right? We should kick private health insurance out of it, right? Because they're taking a premium and it's massively increasing our healthcare costs. That's one way if you want to bring costs down to do that. But short of, Medicare for all, which we should absolutely do, short of that, still, we should not make the choice that, okay, I guess NASA is a problem because NASA doesn't necessarily cure cancer, and that should be our main focus. I think that's a fool's choice. I think it's a
Yeah.
fool's choice, and especially again, one last thing, for a government that keeps telling us it's broke, we have no money, right? Except for war. All of a sudden, they found more money. All of a sudden, they found more money. When they wanted to prosecute another war in the Middle East, right? When they wanted to brutalize more brown people, they found more money, right? They looked in the couch cushions and they found more money. And so, like, I refuse to believe that I got to make this this decision, right? That I've got to fight for scraps. No, right? Let's just stop doing the wars. Sorry.
Well,
No, no, you don't have to apologize.
here you go, man. Here is so this is Simecon. This is the app that I made, and I looked at this. The 40% increase in the defense budget that's going through in this proposed budget, it's about the same as universal healthcare. So we could literally have universal healthcare instead of the increase in the defense budget that's going to happen next year, and like we just choose not to do it. This is the cost would be a single payer system where the federal government replaces private insurance. You pay through taxes instead of premiums. The CBO, which is the Congressional Budget Office, estimates the gross cost is about $3.5 trillion a year, but it saves $3 trillion in eliminated premiums, deductibles, and administrative overhead. Net cost is about $400 billion a year. Countries like Canada, UK, Australia all have this. So like these are like there's literally like budgets are, and Bernie talks about this a lot. Bernie, like, budgets are moral documents, and where we are spending our money really has to where are we spending it, man? And it's like we have that money. We have it. We could fund Medicare, Medicaid, and all these hospitals don't have to close, and your premiums don't have to go up, 200-300% in a
A
year.
healthier population is a more
Yeah.
productive population, right? You want to
Exactly.
pay down that debt, right? Yeah, you want to get these people healthy. You want to allow them to start businesses because like there's that trap that people are in that, hey, I gotta have this healthcare. My job provides the healthcare that I need, the insurance that I need, and so like rather than start that business that I had an idea for, right, or go to a job where my skills could be a better use, I gotta stay here, right? That's a less productive person. That's a less productive economy, right? There's so many benefits that come out of this, and yet we're not doing that, right? But then in the end, we end up trying to fight for scrapsness. Like, okay, like what, like we are like it's like a dilemma, right? I'm not sure if the prison, not the prison's dilemma, but like some sort of dilemma, right? We're like an equation, zero sum fight. Probably what I want to say, right? We're told that we got to fight the other person, right? We have to fight these other interests, right? Except for the big interests that are using the most of our budget. So
Yeah. And keep in mind, like again, this is all in the shadow, or like Trump ran on, I think explicitly, like that was a talking point, no new wars, right? And also he also talked about like that he would reduce government spending, but and like reduce the debt. Where I think that's what we're talking about. Like if we don't get spending under control, it's like our country's going to fall apart. As in, like we have to praise the Lord that He's in power, because if he says it all the time, like if the Democrats are in power, we wouldn't have a country, right? But then he's just like exploding the debt, and like and investing in places that will, over the long term, will not pay dividends. But to return back, just to rewind a little bit, I just want to clarify something. So you brought up earlier, Dr. Greg, Dr. Keisha's comment. I apologize if I mispronounced their name.
Yeah.
Was there, if I remember the comment, like they brought up Medicaid? Was it essentially, if I'm understanding it correctly, they're making the point that like, that should be the priority, or like these cuts are justified because we have to fund Medicare, or
it was like we had to cut Medicare and Medicaid, Medicaid specifically for people, and that's hurting local, like small hospitals, and because a lot of their like Riverside, where I used to live, like it was like 70% of the people that go to the biggest healthcare, like the biggest hospital in that area, were on Medicaid. So it basically really hurts their where they're getting their funding. Basically, it's just a cut to their funding. It's increasing the medical costs, all that kind of stuff. And I think the point is like there's these decisions have consequences. I think that's the big takeaway. It's like these decisions have like consequences, like for these cuts, and so, and it's a fake kind of like decision that saying that we have to cut these in order to save money when we obviously have the money.
Yeah. Okay. Then I misunderstood their comment because like I interpreted it originally as like they were sort of like they were in favor of these cuts to science because we have to fund Medicare. But I misunderstood that.
When we're talking about these costs, though, just to think about this, okay, $400 billion. We have another $400 billion out of somewhere, okay, magically because of the Trump administration thinks that we do. Free public college for the entire country, $80 billion a year. Universal pre-K, that would give universal pre-K is like. It is like the biggest no-brainer. It's like it reduces crime rates. It increases college education rates, like reading, math skills, attainment, everything. Universal pre-K, $40 billion a year. Affordable housing initiative, build 2 million homes that are affordable and expand rental assistance for families spending over 30% of their income on housing, $75 billion a year. like this isn't like these are the things, guys, that we are not getting because our money is going towards these wars. Like it's just that's just what it is. Like, it's just wild to me. So infuriating.
Yeah. But I think according to Trump, like at some point you'll be raking in the money because everyone's going to be buying oil from the United States, right?
We already are. We're the number one seller. We're the number one seller already. Like that's what's wild, man. It's
I
crazy.
think he's stupid. I'm just saying what the thought. I'm assuming what the thought process is in his mind somehow.
Yeah.
The perverted thought process. I don't think you're going to be raking in the money, but I think I assume he sees of like, just the entire world's going to be buying oil from the United States.
And he, with implication that somehow it bounds down to the citizens when it doesn't, right? And also he doesn't know how the global energy markets work, and a deficit in one area of the market will increase prices everywhere, because it's just limited supply. There's a finite supply of oil on the market at the time, and it's being globally traded, right? Like a reduction in that supply means an increase in price. It's really that simple, but he doesn't understand that. Or if he does understand it, he knows that other people don't understand that, and so we can talk about, the America will just up the supply. Well, that's still not going to be enough to reduce your price at the pump, right? Like it's just the way it is.
And even though I think he explicitly said like multiple times, like he'll reduce gas prices on day one. So.
Yeah, and then it's higher than what it was in Biden's, right? Where he specifically talked about it was emergency under Biden. Look how high the gas is, and
isn't it approaching like $4, like $5 a gallon? I don't know. I don't really keep track of things. I don't.
It's very high.
Into $4. I think it had reached over $4 recently. I'm not sure if it's down below, but the price, it's interesting watching the price go up and down on his proclamations. This Donald Trump, a known liar, right? Who just in the course of this conflict has lied demonstrably a number of times, and the market keeps reacting to it as if you can trust a single word out of his mouth. Amazing, right? But let's put our hands in our lives in the hands of these investors, right? Who clearly know more. I mean, they're betting money on it. It's nonsense.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. I'm telling you, it's really wild that the money that we could have, the things that we could have, guys. I'm telling you, if it's really interesting to checking it out. Like we could have everything that I'm talking about, like that I was talking about: universal health care, free public college, universal pre-K, affordable housing, baby bonds, $1,000 per child, federal mental health corps, so you can have free mental health therapy for every American. You could have free public internet. You could have green jobs, 1 million new governmental jobs, restoring ecosystems, building solar panels, climate proofing infrastructure. And you could also spend $200 billion more with our research and development, science, and moonshot. You could do all of that and save $4.3 trillion a year and eliminate the debt in 10 years. So by 2035, we are completely debt free as a country. Like we could do all of that. All it requires is basically going back to the Eisenhower tax plan and actually doing all the tax loopholes. So removing the Social Security tax cap, which is ridiculous, over 168. Have the IRS actually enforce things. Bring a carbon tax for pollution. Medicare drug negotiation. People talk about that all the time. That's $100 billion a year that we have. Reducing the budget, the defense budget. A wealth tax, 2% on $50 million. If someone has over $50 million, tax it by 2%, an additional 2% tax. That brings in $250 billion a year, man.
We're getting Eisenhower was a communist.
Notable, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just this is what's so infuriating, is that it's like we literally it's actually not that hard of a problem. Like budgets and this kind of stuff, it really isn't. It's just people are choosing not to take this seriously. and like we have a bunch of 80, 85-year-olds that are just running this thing into the wall. And it's like when are, like, I don't understand, like when are the serious people going to like take over that actually want to like fix problems? Like, I don't get it.
I think the sad reality is like these 80, 85-year-olds need to pass away for a new crop of people to take their place. That's a whole separate conversation to be had. Like, what do you do with the
incomparable damage the boomers have done to this world?
The geriatric politicians that are just like, yeah, and then this is in academia too, is from what I can tell, just like run by old people that refuse, that don't know when to at least from my perspective, faculty don't know when to retire, when to call it quits. So, like,
I mean, if you went from $100 billion budget to $300 billion budget for research and development in this country, I mean, you would have new universities springing up. You would have universities expanding. You would have more professor jobs. You would have, it would just, there would be so much for academia, I feel like. So it's, I think it would fix itself, like, honestly.
Yeah, no. I mean, I don't want to wish ill upon anybody, but like, yeah,
it's very wild.
It seems like
no, you guys can hurry on to your graves. Fuck you guys, right? Like,
but at the same time, like, Prime, like, how the problem, in my opinion, so I don't believe in like age limits on upper age limits on elections, but what I don't understand is like, how are people still voting for these people?
Sorry, can you clarify that? For what do you mean by?
Well, there's going to be a lower age limit for like 35 for president, and I think like you have to have like some type, like 18 for president or something like that. You know what I mean? You have to have some type of age limit, but I don't think that we should have an upper age limit
at all.
No, because like imagine you're a congressman or something, and you're in a district that has like a lot of elderly people or something like that. You know, there's a lot of the
elderly people, so a dying district, like, I don't know,
I don't know, there's a lot of like democratically, like, I think that we should solve this by like just voting these people out. That's what I don't understand, like, why are people still voting them in? That's the problem, because people aren't invested in the same way. Now I would love to solve that. I love to address it as well, right? But no, screw that. Like, I'm against this. Like, you know, I think we should have a limit, right? Like, or else we have a gerontocracy like we have here. These people refuse to move on, dragging the country down, completely disconnected from our society and from the will of the people, because they have the money, they have the influence, they have the name recognition, which a lot of elections come down to keep moving on, right? They have to keep showing up again. No, if you had hard limits, right? Like, Chuck Schumer would be gone. Chuck Schumer is awful, and one of the reasons why the Democrats are so hated right now, and while they're polling is so, he's just not responsive to the people, and he's been extremely passive during,
and he's just lame. Like, I don't see how anybody can, like,
there's so many reasons.
Listen to him speak.
So screw this guy.
I'm not defending Chuck Schumer. But I'm saying that like that there's like, you should be like the people should just have be voting for the better candidate. I mean, we outnumber old people. I know exactly.
And I know we have a gerontocracy. Yet the gerontocracy exists. You're saying people should, and yes, people should do lots of things. People should be more educated. People should be more into them, but they're not. But like,
but what is? I think it's more systemic of a problem that like young people aren't voting at higher numbers because we outnumber them so much, versus, you know,
for now, there might be a time where we don't, just,
you know, so like, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Maybe like, with the, you know,
for the most part, people just don't get invested into politics, right? Until it touches them personally in some way, right? Until there's some sort of energizing event that happens to them, or a radicalizing event that happens to them in their life, right? Where they see the effects of politics like directly in front of them. It's just the way it is. Again, we keep running to this point where a person needs to experience something before they start to care about it, right? Either going to the zoo, watching the rocket launch, right, or seeing some sort of disastrous governmental policy happen right in front of your eyes, and maybe actually experiencing the consequences of that. So you keep saying yeah, well, young people should vote more. I agree, everyone should vote more. I was when I first got a chance to vote, I was one of those people who was more dialed in. I was one of the people who absolutely was going to vote and was a lifelong voter, right? But other people aren't, unfortunately, right? And so if they're seeing a name that they recognize, oh, the Chuck Schumer person, yeah, I know this person, right? And that's the entirety of their vote. That's a problem. And also Chuck Schumer, he just there's so many advantages to incumbency that makes it very difficult for a person to overcome, right? Especially since he's a powerful person within the New York Senate, right? So so many people within New York would say, well, I mean, he is the Senate Democrat minority leader. Why we want to give that up? Well, there's could be plenty of other reasons to give him up, plenty of reasons to let him go, but they're not going to. They haven't done it, right? And we all suffer the consequences, so we should have an upper limit.
And just to clarify, or just to see where you're at, Greg, do you feel the same way about, for example, the Supreme Court? There should be no age limit, or is that different for you there?
Yeah, I think we should have more people on the court for sure. I'd be okay with rotating that. Pete Buttigieg's idea is actually kind of interesting, having half of them kind of stay and then the other half kind of rotating out. I think that makes sense. But in the Supreme Court, I mean, it's kind of, I'm of the mind that honestly there shouldn't be an upper age limit, but I also don't think that. I think that the court was actually designed to kind of flow with the legislative, democratic elections way more than what we see now, which is kind of this idea that you can never touch the seats on the Supreme Court. And I don't think that the Constitution was written like that. So I would be okay with changing the composition of the court a lot more, and kind of having it be kind of something that's an institution that is built by the legislative branch more.
Sure. I understand. And everything you said, I don't think I'm really opposed to. If anything, I think I lean towards favoring it. But let's just say, and as of now, and someone can definitely correct me if I'm wrong, because, I'm Canadian, so I may just be misinformed. But I believe as of now, a Supreme Court appointment is for life, as in you only stop once
they can die.
The person voluntarily dies or voluntarily retires. I see some potential problems with that. So, but what I was going to say is let's say barring your changes, as in if it was proposed that we put an age restriction on the current iteration of the Supreme Court, you would oppose that?
If that was the only change, only change. I'm really democratic on a lot of my things. I feel like democracy is kind of a better way of figuring things out. But the problem is
it's not a democratic institution, though.
Well, it kind of is, though, in the fact that that's how you change the composition of the court. So I think
through direct voting, though.
Yeah, by the president. Yeah. So that's and the legislative, it does change the composition and the amount of seats. So that those two mechanisms.
It almost never does that, though.
But recently, we've recently stopped doing that. But historically, we've done it the entire time, constantly. So that's one of the problems, I think. So if it was just that one, I'd be probably okay with it. But I would say that we should be doing a lot more to change the court in general.
I don't think either of us disagree with that. But it seems like you now maybe you just have had different experiences in academia. But I assume you've come across a faculty member that they should have retired a long time ago.
But I mean,
should not be there.
Yeah, Death Watch is very weird. I don't like that. I think that you should have a minimum amount of Supreme Court nominees per president or something. There should be a minimum at least two seats, and then it's just kind of grows until whatever. Yes, I would, again, I would, it would be a lot different. The Supreme Court would be a lot different in my mind.
Yeah, no, but you do recognize the problem of like just having those positions of power occupied by very elderly people.
Yeah, but like, who decides how old is who? You know, that's the problem, man. Like that.
I agree. I don't know.
We do.
That's difficult.
75. We set a number. That's how we do it.
Personally, I don't agree with term limits either. I personally, I think it's weird that these people don't have families that love them, and they love their families so that they want to retire. I think that that's kind of like, it shows how like disconnected these people are from reality into their fames. Like, it's crazy to me that they're like all living like separate than their families, and they don't want to like actually just. It's crazy.
No screwing around. A elderly retirement home, and I mean this in a very literal sense. That like there are individuals in Congress, and we've seen this played out multiple times in recent years, who are literally just being taken care of by their staff.
Mm-hmm.
That is their support system, is their staff, right? The people they had around them, and the staff, they're gonna. This becomes an easy job for them, right? All you have to do is just like manage this individual, like you were doing previously, and you get this paycheck, right? So like. We're talking about like the lady out in California who
Dianne Feinstein,
had, like Dianne Feinstein, whose brain melted completely.
Yeah, it was awful.
And who was like being like the DNC was forcing her to continue to take these votes, even though she literally could not remember. She had several incidents, very public incidences, where she clearly had no idea what was going along, right? But they literally wheeled her out. She couldn't walk anymore at some point. They literally wheeled her out to take these votes, right? It's damn near
Weekend at Bernie style, like a proper up.
like Weekend at Bernie style.
Yeah, legitimately.
Who is this woman whose name I can't always remember, Eleanor something. She is the representative of Washington, D.C., the non-voting member there. But like, it's very clear, right? Look her up, right? This woman is having mental deterioration, right? She is damn near gone, and yet she's still going to run again within the next. She's but within the House of Representatives, she's going to run again in the next election, right? But who is she? Is that her or is that her staff, right? Because the staff is running all her communications. We have almost no contact with her, right? Washington, D.C., like, they deserve a voting representation, but still they have this, right? They deserve some level of representation in the House, right? It's a shame because Eleanor was like, she had like a distinguished career for herself, right? But like, that was then, this is now. She's done. She's gone. She's not actually representing them anymore. Yet still she's going to be there and she can still win, right? Not even though she's running, she can still win, right? Just because she's been in there for so long, people recognize her name. Oh, she's running again. Yeah, I'll just check that. Please, you gotta have term limits on these people.
I mean, but the problem is, man, like the cognitive ability and stuff like that. You could have a brain injury or something. Like, look at Fetterman, man. Fetterman's got a brain injury and is like completely a different person, like ideologically and he's completely.
Why would that be against
changed.
My point, though?
But no, but I'm saying though that there could be cognitive impairment before the term limits. Or before the age limit, the kind of thing.
So,
I
don't think either of us are proposing that we can eliminate this problem entirely.
Yeah. But I'm saying in both ways, like democracy can also solve this. Like democracy can like solve and through voting and like we can just have better voting.
And yet we haven't.
I know,
but we haven't.
True.
So then.
I know. Yeah, I know. But again, man, that's my fundamental like belief. I think democracy is the best way to organize and solve like these problems and like these type of like
democratically elect individuals to pass the law so that we can limit
you could
terms. Then democracy has solved it.
You could.
Okay, that's fine.
But I think you would recognize the problem because and this might just be, I guess, my own personal experience, but okay. And I'm definitely not an expert on, cognitive decline and, cognitive ability. But like in my experience, okay, which could just be whatever unique to me. But like in my experience dealing with individuals who are elderly
Mhm.
and that have actual cognitive impairment, like they don't recognize their own inabilities.
Yeah.
Of like my grandmother, who's like 94, 95, can't, like, she's in a facility devoted to individuals with a cognitive impairment. They can't remember what she had for breakfast, but in her mind, she can still drive.
Yeah.
Okay, she's on the floor that she can't escape from.
Yeah.
In her mind, she can still get behind it. How do you deal with those individuals then? Like, you might have that individual in a position of power, the Supreme Court.
Yeah. I mean, you'd have like impeachment, and then, but the Supreme Court wise, I mean, yeah, I mean, that impeachment would be how to remove those people. I mean, that, yeah.
How many times has that happened?
But like, and I'm using
Supreme Court, not that I know of.
But I think in general, again, in my experience, and it could just be, just my own personal experience, but like older people just don't know when to call it quits. Like this is just like this is like the traditional stereotype. The boxer doesn't know when to call it quits. Like one more fight, and then I get my head knocked off, type of thing. It's like, and I understand this, and maybe I will face the same problem at some point when I not knowing to call it quits. I'm hoping that's not the case for me, but like I also see this. That's why I brought up academia. Like I see the faculty member like, you should not be teaching a course. I don't think you should be here at all. You're qualified to teach the course.
No, I agree, man. And there's definitely those it's infuriating to be sitting there like being like, man, I could be literally in your spot, but now we have to just wait 15 years for this to happen. It's death watch on these positions. It's awful. I think it's a little bit different being like a university versus like an elected representative, which is kind of like a little bit, directly like a democratic ideal. I think like for sure, like tenured professors.
It's easier to remove. I don't know for sure, but I think it might be easier to remove a tenured professor than it is to like remove a Supreme Court judge. I could be wrong about that.
I don't know. Actually, because of the unions, like, no, they're not union. They're a tenured professor, but they have to be voted out by their other professors, right? That's how the tenure works. But I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess that's democracy. But I don't know, man. It's a really weird point for me where it's like, how do you decide? I don't know. It's tough. It's a really tough decision, to who can be allowed. And I think that like just having the democratically, voting mechanisms, like giving more power towards that versus like being more heavy handed. I don't know. That's just me though.
Yeah, that's fair. I do find it interesting. I mean, but yeah, you do seem to recognize the problem, but I understand like,
yeah, there should be a problem, and you should have candidates that can say and elucidate that problem, and then people vote for that candidate. I mean, that's the mechanism to solve this is the election. And the problem is the elections that of like, we're not winning. The young people aren't winning. And I think one of the big problems is that you have people that don't really understand like the institution, that aren't there, that don't understand like the cogs of like how it's actually happening.
Incumbency.
Yeah, like people just change a verse of like, I think Prime is largely correct of like name recognition, and like, unless something is going catastrophically wrong, might as well just stick with the person who's already there.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I'll have to look at the incumbency, like the recent data.
Would your opinion change? And I understand, it's hard to speculate, but would your opinion change? Because I think we're on the trajectory in like the next 50 to 100 years of like, there will be more old people than young people. And like your argument of like young people outnumber old people, I don't think will hold true. I like based off of the demographic numbers that I've seen, I'm pretty sure Gen Z is a smaller cohort than millennials, and I'm pretty sure Gen Alpha is going to be smaller than Gen Z. So what are you going?
The upside down pyramid population.
Yeah. So like, will your opinion change if there's more 80 and 90-year-olds?
Well, if anything, that means that the politicians should be older if the population is getting older.
Fair enough. I understand that perspective.
Right? I mean, if more and more people are getting
You're
older, then the
valuable,
median
yeah.
politician should also be getting older with age.
Fair.
Damn the younger generation. That's actually the protective generation, right? Like damn them all, right? They'll have to wait another 30 years, right? But before they can ever have a say, right? Even though their taxpayer money, right, is being used to fund those programs, and we should be funding these programs. I wouldn't abandon our elderly friends, absolutely not, right? In fact, I said it before, right? Like how, like, hey, no, I don't feel like I should have to choose between Medicare, Medicaid, and then the sciences and all that, right? So I do absolutely care for our elderly individuals, but like the energetic productive portion of the population doesn't get a chance, right? Like, and then like those the goddamn geriatrics, right? They are going to be protecting interests for them, like accumulated wealth. This is another reason why we get accumulated wealth, because the interests they're going to be concerned about are the interests of people who already have property, right? Who are already well established. Those interests, they've already like built their nest egg, right? And they want to protect that, right? Here's something you want to protect: housing prices. They want housing prices to be up. If you actually already own the property, then you want that property to be worth higher, no matter what the cost of the community, right? But if we could lower property prices by increasing the supply, or something along those lines, right? Or just like putting in something within the neighborhood that just like lowers the property, but is like helpful to the community in general, right? You'll fight that, right? Like even though that can be beneficial in the long term, that geriatric representative, that's what they're going to be defending, right? Not the future, the past. And they'll shackle you the entire time. I don't have to speculate about this. It's happening right now.
Dude, I agree with you. I think
me as millennials complained about of our baby boomer parents, of like, you've ruined the economy and like all that stuff.
But bro,
agree with me, Dr. Gray.
I agree with you, Prime. What I'm saying though is that like young people should be building our own institutions in order to live through those values. That's the thing.
Outside of
yeah,
dude.
But yes,
talking about the institution of Congress, though.
I know, exactly. Yes, that's the whole point. So by building these institutions, you create legitimacy, you create executive experience, you create like there's a lot that's to be gained by this stuff. There's a reason why the right wing seems to have more like people in the pipeline, and it's because of all these like media institutions that they create, all these huge corporations.
Dr. Greg, but you said democracy working,
yes,
would be that the median age of the representative would increase, right? And so
if the median age of the population increased, then yeah.
The media, yeah. So you're saying that like like none of that should matter, actually, right? All the other stuff you just said doesn't actually matter.
It does.
Because you want the age to increase, right? You want that like Corey just laid out the situation that we're facing, right? That many other economies are facing, in which we're going to have a massively overrepresented base of individuals who are old, right? And at that point, unproductive. I don't mean that to say that in a pejorative way, but they'll be unproductive, right? But they'll have accumulated wealth. You're saying
and
that
power.
we should instead of have a government oriented to them, to the unproductive individuals, using up the most resources with the most accumulated wealth that they want to hoard, right? Instead, like we should orient ourselves to the past, right? Rather than the energetic people who are paying the taxes right now and are actually making the country run. Like that's what you're saying. That's what democracy should look like, rather than instead like looking towards the future.
I'm saying that you have young people take over city halls and new cities and things like that in order to say and give like a good. And a good thing of being like, hey, this is what we have. We have this city, and we did our stuff here, and this is what it works.
Local level, you still have incumbency. I don't know that.
Yeah, exactly. And but the whole point is that you have to build your case, man. You have to build like your case. Like for example, like honestly, I would if I was the DSA, I would honestly shutter like every other political like race in the entire country and just throw it all under Mamdani, and like literally every DSA member, just you're either in New York City and you're either working with his government or not. And people, you would get so much institutional support. You'd get so much experience. That's like such a good idea, man. As opposed to what other part, like the P&L, Peace and Liberty Party, like they're doing nothing. They're not running any school boards. They're not running any cities. They're not running any states. So then when people see these people run for U.S. representatives or senators, they're saying, like, what have you done? Like, what are you talking about? Like, you have no executive experience. You have no actual like boots on the ground, like organizational experience. Like in order to run a government, you have to like have some like type of executive experience. You can't just like throw your hat into the ring. AOC, for example, is
exactly what you can do. But like, but that's not like, not all this is a distraction, right? Yes, building a resume, right, is helpful rather than not having a resume. Great, right? AOC is an exception, sure, right? We get that. We already know all this, right? That doesn't address incumbency. The problem here is incumbency, the advantages of incumbency, right? Accumulated decades of incumbency, even though you can have accumulated decades of incompetency. Still, that gives you an advantage. That's like the story of our system right at this second.
The incumbency works because you have like a story to tell. You have like this. I've done this. I've worked here. I've done this. And if you have an incumbency versus someone else that has, hey, I was an executive. I was a city. I was a mayor. I did this. It makes a lot better of a story. You're both incumbent to the institution, so that you have stats to actually show. As opposed to what happens is that a lot of these against these incumbents, you have basically a populist message where it's just like a firebrand, like I'm trying to burn it down. This guy isn't going to be good, and a lot of people don't resonate with that. And the fact that they want someone that understands the institution well enough in order to use the institution for their advantage. So they fall back on the incumbent because they're like, well, at least this guy understands like how this thing works, as opposed to someone that doesn't at all.
I'm not so sure that the incumbency is just an experience advantage. I think I lean towards, I don't know for sure. I don't have any actual empirical data to back it up, but I think it's more the incumbency advantage. Like there's an element of just like a bias towards that, as in we start off our conversation even just today of like we brought up like there is a bias of like we tend to connect and care about things in like the animals that you can see and interact with at the zoo. Like that's a bias that we have, as opposed to like in an ideal world, should it take like, oh, you have to touch the dolphin to care about preserving the dolphins? I don't think that should be the case, but I understand that is a natural human bias. I think an argument can be made that the incumbency advantage, there's an element of a bias towards that in terms of like people are on average, I think, more change averse. And like I said, unless there's something catastrophically wrong, they will just go with what is currently there until things really truly fall off the rails. And even then, people's pain tolerance seems to be pretty high. And so I'm not so sure that it's just I basically I'm questioning like whether you're a case of like, well, just build the experience that will eliminate the incumbency advantage. I'm highly skeptical of that.
I'd be curious, like honestly, I'm curious about the incumbency advantage and how it's done over time. My hypothesis would be that it would actually go down, especially considering that now with like social media and stuff like that, you have such a direct connection. Like the incumbency advantage really is when you have like the institution of the government behind you, so that you are traveling, you have media appearances, you have the infrastructure, you have the volunteers, you have like all that stuff. And if you just start a campaign, you have none of that, and you're kind of like, you're not a well-oiled machine. You don't have a lot of executive experience, that kind of thing. But if you can leverage social media in order to kind of like showcase yourself as like someone that's like running a single issue campaign, or that's someone that's really good on social media like Mamdani, then it's like now the incumbency advantage kind of goes away, because you have your name advantage. Your name is out there through social media. You can talk about your issues that you couldn't, before, 30 years ago. So I think my hypothesis is that it would go down over time with social media, but I'm actually curious. I'm going to research it after this.
Fair enough. But I mean, I respect the consistency in your position. Obviously, I don't agree with it. But I understand where you're coming from. I'm like, yes, you do value democracy.
Yeah, dude, parties need to show up, dude. Like these third parties, like I'm down for like P&L and DSA to like be a way bigger of a player in our world. But unfortunately, they just have no credence, or the Green Party. It's crazy to me. It should infuriate everyone. I voted for the Green Party. The idea that they have not been able to like run a city hall. Like how have they taken in millions and millions of dollars and accomplished nothing with it? Nothing. At least the DSA has like Mamdani, and I'm telling you, like the DSA either flies or dies with Mamdani. So it's like he is their steward right now. So genuinely, if I was the DSA, I would be pushing all my money towards him, like because it's like all your marketing, every person that you know that wants to be up and coming, should be working in Mamdani's administration just to like get some experience. This matters, guys. Executive experience matters.
I don't think anyone disputes. Just out of curiosity, and I understand, I'm building a hypothetical that I'm like force you to speculate. But let's say everything that you're recommending essentially transpires. Of like, we have young people, they're building resumes, they build out their own, local infrastructure, and you have, all of these, a whole cohort of young people, like very experienced, and they're ready to like go to the next level. If you just see a series of losses there, or they all lose, will that change your position? Of like, oh, maybe it wasn't actually that issue.
I mean, I think it's more like the political revolution comes when, like what Bernie's talking about, where it's like millions of people like are standing up and working together in order to flood, every layer of our democracy, and that's where it lives or dies. So I don't know. I mean, like that if we don't do that, then I think that we're host, and we're going to be going down the hellscape of fascist takeover, and we have like 15 years left. So I don't know. We'll see. So I think that it's a do or die time, man. People need to fight or flee, or So it's like you gotta like get involved, and I'm telling you, like I think that we do have a chance, though. We legitimately do, by using the same institutions of power in order to kind of build out these, like leveraging nonprofit tax deductible organizations in order to create like things that are going to help our cause and our values. Like it blows my mind that there aren't like Charlie Kirk like created not just a channel, but he created a media company. Like he created a whole sway. Turning Points USA is chapters all across the country. Like that's a great example. Versus like the biggest person in leftist media is Hassan Piker, and he doesn't do anything like that. He doesn't create any type of institutions in order to help.
Charlie Kirk was backed by billionaires, though.
No. So okay,
billionaires.
okay. So you're right, but that's what you're saying is that we should have organizations on the left that aren't fully funded, that aren't well as funded as the right. And I think that makes perfectly sense. That is not an excuse to have zero institutions on the left. So that's the difference. Like you can have nonprofits, you can have the institutions that just aren't fully funded, but we don't have that on the left. We just don't have the institutions at all, which is the failure.
Okay.
Yeah.
The left critiques and build, like in our mind, we build institutions, but we organize very individually. we are very siloed as the left, and we go and come together things for like no kings protests and stuff like that. That is when we as a collective like come together. But that is really the only time that the left ever comes together. The right, they critique institutions, but they organize by institutions. They talk this big game that we are libertarians. We don't want, we're like basically anarchists. We're all on our own, versus how they organize institutions. Everything is a nonprofit. Every media empire is a full blown company. Like you just don't see that. You just don't see any type of structured institution building on the left with our own values. Like, and I think that makes a big difference, man. I think that's a really big problem that we have on the left.
No, I definitely don't dispute that. That should make a difference. I'm just a little bit skeptical of like that's the actual difference maker, or that will, let's say, solve the problem that we originally talked about, like the gerontocracy type of thing. But yeah, fair enough. I mean, maybe time will tell.
Yeah, I hope so. I don't know. That's just my idea. Maybe I'm wrong.
I could be wrong too. Like I have no problem saying, like, even though I'm in favor as of now of some sort of like age limit, both for tenured faculty and Supreme Court justices and other government officials, I'm fully willing to bite the bullet that may not, if it ends up doing nothing and not solving the problem, like, yeah, I would ditch it like right away.
Yeah. We gotta try what's working in the country, and it's like what's working in this country are these institutions of power, and I think that we have to try that on the left too. I think that we should just mirror what's working on the right and be like, hey, we're going to make these institutions of power. We're not going to be funded by billionaires, but that doesn't mean that we can't have them. We can't build them democratically. You know what I mean? We can bootstrap some things together. You know, we can create them. There's no reason that we can't, No,
I definitely don't disagree. I agree. Well, to be clear, I do not like Hassan Piker. So I would want someone to replace.
It's just, I mean, you could talk about anyone. You could talk about literally the biggest names in leftist media, and none of them do this stuff. None of them do any type of institution building. It blows my mind. It honestly blows my mind. Like, how easy would it be for Hassan to create a media company that helps leftists like an umbrella organization that would help people do marketing, publicity, it would be so easy. That you see dozens of these on the right, like, and they're not all funded by billionaires, man. Like, we can't be like deluded about that. Like, they're not all funded by billionaires. They're just seeing what's works, and they're just, okay, we'll do that too. But I think the problem is a lot of people on the left are so like blackpilled on a lot of these institutions actually helping us, because they see the institutions of the United States and they don't see themselves in them, right? And what I'm saying is that, like, the nonprofit, the new institutions that we build can be our own ideologies, man. There are our own ways of organizing. Dude, like in the 60s and 70s, there were Marxist communes in Northern California. Do you know what I mean? Like, there were people that were completely reimagining how, like, we could like exist in in our economy. It's like, I'm not saying that we should do communes again in Northern California, but what I'm saying is that, like, people on the left in the United States used to think about this stuff. We used to build stuff. We used to build institutions, but now people are just, I don't know, waiting.
Yeah,
people are just waiting.
No. There's a larger conversation of why individuals like Hassan don't take the actions that you do. And that might be a different.
I don't
know.
It's very weird. It's very weird for me. It's just like people. Is there a Maoist revolution going on outside? Like, nope, there isn't. Never mind. All right, I guess I'll just stay inside. I guess I'll just like doom scroll.
He doesn't because like, I think he's largely just like doing things for aesthetics. I don't think he actually cares, or I don't think there's any authenticity behind any of his beliefs. But that's just me. I could be wrong about that. But yes, fair enough. At the end of the day, I do not disagree that having more infrastructure would be beneficial.
Yeah, I think it matters, man. I really do. I think like having like for not only just like organizing communities, but then also mutual aid, also like executive experience, like these like if you're going to be running for governor or you're going to be running for president, or it's an executive role. Like what kind of executive experience do you have? Like imagine, like it matters. I mean, it genuinely does matter that the people are good at their job that we're putting them into. I don't know. I guess we have. Did you guys want to do the? You want to save the HIV one for next week, or what are you guys feeling?
That probably deserves a much longer conversation for next week.
Okay. Yeah. All right, let's do that. Okay, that sounds good.
We could do it justice.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, totally. Let's see.
And also, I did want to talk. I didn't post this story in the chat, but it seems like the CDC has also paused testing for rabies and pox viruses, which probably not good.
Oh, really? Oh man. Okay. Yeah, dude. We're just like completely not testing anything. I mean, they're cutting the CDC's budget a ton too. So it's just like, it's just wild to me.
I'll keep your infections in the United States. Don't.
Hey, your measles vaccination campaign's going on up there. So I'm happy you guys are,
I hope it turns out well.
Are people talking about it? Seriously, have people even? Is it like a thing?
No, I can tell you now, at least based off of the headlines that I come across. Like, yeah, no major Canadian news outlet really covers, as far as I can tell. And yeah, I do consume quite a bit of
wild
Canadian news media.
That is so wild to me. That is so crazy. I mean, I guess like the current outbreak that's happening in the United States isn't really talked about that much, but like, especially considering now that you guys have a full blown, especially on Ontario, which was like the worst one by the numbers. So it's like, I mean, you have a huge vaccination program going on right now in a, a single payer, a universal healthcare, system. So I would think that it would just be that, I don't know, ads or marketing and I'm curious. I mean, because I'm curious about how they're actually, pushing it.
Well, I can tell you that I don't see any ads for it.
That's wild, man.
I do see billboards for the GLP-1 agonists, but I don't see.
It's everywhere. They're everywhere. It's $1 trillion market, man. Yeah.
Yeah, which I find interesting. Like, pharmaceutical drug advertising is banned in Canada, but it seems like the billboards or for that type of advertising doesn't seem to be banned, because I see them every once in a while. Which that was a new that was, at least so far in my memory, that was not a thing like 10 years ago. This seems to be like a recent development. Mm-hmm. I've never seen on a billboard any advertisement for any pharmaceutical drug up until like the past couple of years, which is very. Yeah, that was a strange thing to see.
Yeah. Prime, do you want to say anything, man?
No, I think I said everything. Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry, Prime. I'm sorry if I made you mad.
No, it's fine. I just have nothing else to say on the subject.
Okay. Got you, man. Got you. I always love talking to you, man. Appreciate you.
Same here.
Yeah, you too, Corey, man. It's awesome. I love it. It's especially like, it's so cool to see the, yeah, it's crazy how alike we are, man. It's funny. The, it's really interesting, the public health mirror of you guys going through your measles outbreak the last 2 years. And then now we're kind of like going through it now, and just, especially consider we're so close in populations, like literally how close the populations are, like 90% of your population's right by the United States. And then so much of your media is influencer. I don't know. It's just interesting.
No, well, there's so many similarities, but
Yeah.
also the differences as well. Like, as in, like, I think I might have more justification for complaints because these individuals are costing our public healthcare system money, lots
Yes.
of money,
Huge.
and there's always conversations about like the lack of funding or how much funding it requires to fund our public healthcare system, and this is not helping the situation.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. All
But,
right, guys.
but I still support public healthcare. But
Yeah.
like this makes it difficult for me to support. But at the end of the day, I still support it.
Yeah, nobody in Canada is going like, you know what, we should just abandon this thing anyway.
Not yet, but things like this, like give credence to that argument of like,
Yeah.
why are we paying for this healthcare for this outcome that was almost certainly preventable?
Yeah, it is 100%. It is. Yeah, all these deaths and hospital visits are completely preventable. So that's what's so wild, man. That's yeah. And in the child abuse month, you can definitely say not vaccinating your child, in my opinion, is child abuse because you are literally all those kids that are in the hospital right now being exposed to this disease when they didn't need to is completely preventable, in my opinion. Therefore, that's child abuse. That just is. So
yeah. Or I think there's a case to be made for negligence or something along those lines.
Yeah.
I think we're over on the same page there.
Yeah, I mean, because the kid did not consent. You know, the kid did not consent to have this lifelong illness pushed onto them, and now they're having to deal with it for the rest of their life. You know, and it's just not fair to them. It's just not fair, and I think it's gross. I think we have to like hold these people accountable. So
wholeheartedly.
Yeah. All right. Well, you guys want to do your outros?
Yeah, sure. By all means, go for it, Prime. You can go first.
Oh yeah, thank you so much for having me. You can find me on Prime Kai, PRIMECYES at Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, and Kick. Yes. So I feel like I'm missing something, but still, find me there. We have great discussions, great debates. Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah.
And you can find me on Twitch, CoreyCam84, Twitter, X, YouTube, Instagram, Substack, TikTok. It's Corey Campbell. Always appreciate being here and always enjoy the passionate conversation. And even though we definitely don't always agree, but I do appreciate understanding how you're coming to the conclusions that you are coming to, which like I understand them. Obviously, I don't agree with them, but I can understand and respect them. And I enjoy that.
Cool. Thanks, man. Yeah, I appreciate it. I always love the conversations that we have. It's a good time. So
absolutely.
On to next week. All right,
absolutely.
Guys. All right, have a good one. Peace. Bye, everyone. Awesome, guys. And I love like having those conversations with. It's cool. I never know where it's going to go, and I love how it's like a pro science. You know, just talking about the cool stuff that's happening, you know? Yeah. Well, now it's just us guys hanging out. Thanks for being here, guys. Let's see. This. Yeah, guys, that was the sim econ stuff. It was so funny. It's interesting having to like having done that, you know, at that calculator and kind of like knowing how easy it is to balance the budget, and we just don't. Yeah. I'm sorry to disappoint you, Lydia. I'm sorry. You don't have to rub it in. Jeez. God. Yeah, Michelle, especially as a CFO, you can like, yeah, I think it's crazy. So it's trillions of dollars, and it's such an amount of money, big amount of money. Sorry, Lydia. I try. Measles. Yeah, guys, it's I don't know, man. It is. I understand the impetus for term limits. I do, but I feel like I'm okay with solving that problem democratically right now. And but again, if that was I don't know. If I was a senator and that came up, I don't know how I would vote. I think I'd probably vote for it just because it's like a good reform right now that we need, but maybe not in the future. I don't know. SCOTUS is a really tough one for term limit, for time limit. It's a tough one. I want terminal limits. Terms limits. Terminal. I think if someone's terminal, Michelle, I think that they're not making it. I think, can you imagine? He's only dead. It's okay. I think most voters support it. Yeah, I think so. Okay, let's see. I'm going to ask AI, has the incumbency advantage changed over time in the United States? My hypothesis would be that the incumbent advantage has gone down over time as social media kind of gives people like an institutional support for media awareness and name recognition that used to be such an advantage with incumbency. So I would think that like versus 50 years ago, incumbency advantage is less. Let's see. So curious, very curious. You think most voters support. I think you're right, Robin. I think most voters would support it. But then again, I don't know if that's merited. I don't know. I mean, just because people support something doesn't mean it's always a good thing. Democracy is my foundational belief, but that's also not always the best thing there. You know what I mean? So there's this thing called tyranny of the majority that happens, so as a lover of democracy, one of the big failures of democracy is the tyranny of the majority. So that is right. That is correct. And Prime was talking about that. Okay. So your hypothesis is directionally correct, but the causal mechanism is different from what you'd expect. You're right that incumbency advantage has declined, but the mechanism is polarization and nationalization of elections, not the democratization of media access. Okay. So incumbency advantage has declined, but that's because of basically the use of super PACs in order to go into these races and just unseat people. That makes sense. Incumbents still win re-elections at 90% rates, but that's increasingly because they sit in safe partisan seats, not because of personal incumbency effects. Yeah. And that's like the biggest thing. These people that keep getting these things, they're in very safe seats, so they're not. They just don't. They don't have the they don't have the challenge. State legislative incumbents' access in recent elections. It's more of a consequence of the increasing number of partisan districts and the continued nationalization of state politics rather than the traditional incumbency advantage. U.S. is a constitutional republic. Okay, yeah, that's fine. It's so funny to me that people think like democracy, Democrat Party, Republican, Republic. And people like really fight on that. They really think that like that is what the main guiding ideological battle is in the United States. Like seriously, if you think that the United States is a republic and just a republic and not democratic at all, like what makes the United States Constitution different and unique amongst all the other constitutions that came before it? So like what made it different? No, I mean, Hazel, you had republics before, right? You had you had the Roman Republic. Did the Roman Republic have a constitution? 20 years is long enough. Yeah, because every election people are just voting to stir stuff up. Yeah, I mean, Robin, I don't know. Like, I don't know if that's. I don't know if I would put term limits again, like, because it's like, what if someone's like just good at their job? You know what I mean? Like, what if someone's just good? You know, again, I don't think that like someone should just be like thrown out because they're democratically loved and the people love them. And, you know, think of that scenario like that. I don't think that's it. Hey, F-on. Okay, so not in the modern sense in a single written document, but yes, in a functional sense that's arguably more interesting. The Roman Republic operated under what scholars called an unwritten constitution, a complex evolving framework composed of several layers. Ah, so there you go. There's actual legislation, 12 tablets being the earliest major codification of law, plus subsequent legs passed by the assemblies. So yeah, dude, even the Romans had a constitution. And Rome was a country way longer than the United States. So like, what is No, they had it. They had actual written legislation in 450 BC, the earliest major codification of the law. Democracy majority rule. Wow, Doodle man, that was amazing. You've muted me before because I thought you were MAGA, but good to see you. Oh, sorry, Sparked. Sorry, we're usually very light on moderation here. I'm sorry. We're usually like really light, so I'm sorry if you feel like you were heavy-handed in the. Oh, Robin, do you like this topic? They don't need to build powers as individuals. The Greeks had this type even before Rome. Oh, yeah, Robin. Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, with the lot government. Dude, I think the Greeks with the lot government, Robin, is like legitimately so sick. So good. I actually want to bring back the lot government to the United States, genuinely. Oh, thank you. Let me go through the gifts real quick, guys. I'm so sorry. I was try to like be locked in, you know. Helen, Mego, Misscake, DN, Michelle, Nightflyer, Doodle. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you. Yeah, Mava, guys. Mava. Boom. Make America vaccinated again. I wore this at the zoo today. So it's like, it's kind of funny. Oh. Yeah, isn't that good? Make America vaccinated again. Deal with it. Stay mad. Stay mad. Oh, yuck. Okay. You got it. Oh, why didn't you learn about lot government? Oh, it's a good question, Cindy. Lot government's really cool. So lot government is the idea that you just randomly pick like 5% of the population and they just go into the government that year. They just get randomly picked. Everyone like just gets to go. And I think it would be a really cool mechanism to just have randomly like 1% of the population just boom. going into the institutions and actually becoming a legislator and like that kind of stuff. Genuinely, I think that would be really cool. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, it's been fun. Happy to be here. Happy you guys are here. Happy to hang out. It's like a forced jury duty. Yes, that is exactly it. It is. I just want to stand up and sit around. Stand up a little bit, guys. Is that okay? Can I stand up? Mind if I stand up here? Trying to learn how the mic works. That'd be cool. Let's see here. Sorry, guys. Sorry. I'm sorry. Oh my gosh. What'd you do? You went and got a shingles vaccine a week before my surgery, and now you have what? You have shingles? Oh no. Boom. Let's see here, guys. Let's see. Here. Boom. What's up? Yo, what's up, guys? Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry you got shingles. That's awful. That's so bad. Feel a lot better. Here we go. There we go. Yeah. Boom. Sorry, guys. I'm figuring this out. Ivermectin does not cure shingles. What are you talking about? Who are you? This is my podium. Yeah. It did for me. No, it didn't. No, dude, shingles is a virus. Ivermectin is not a virus killer. It kills parasitics. Okay. There we go. Okay. There we go, guys. We're going. We're hanging out. We're chilling. This is good. Look at us. Boom. And then I wanted to like do this. I want this camera angle to come over here and then kind of like see what's happening. Yeah, I gotta figure this out. A little figuring it out stage still. I want it to like be, yeah. I want the whole TV to get in there. And then I'm like on the side here. Boom. Oh, it's perfect. It's perfect. Oh no. Oh, it's exactly. Anyway, I missed it. Was it me? Was it me? Oh no. Oh. Oh, cool. Okay, Robin, I'm catching up with your chats. The Greeks had this type of before Rome. This is my favorite debate topic. My debate was USA founded. Oh, is USA founded on Christianity? Yes, please. The founders were opposed to political parties. Yeah. I mean, the problem, like, political parties is an interesting one for me. Like genuinely, like, I don't understand, like, okay, so you ban political parties. Like, how are you going to stop people from like working together in a coalition? That's what I don't understand. Right? So it's like, what, like, okay, so now you like ban coalitions, or is the idea that you're banning like 50% plus one, like everywhere? Like, how does that work? You know what I mean? That's my, like, you know, my thought process about it. Desk activate. Oh, it hates me. We did it. What are you doing? What are you doing? Why do you hate me? Stop this. What in the world is going on? What in the world? Why is it only coming from here? I'm so confused. There we go. So weird. Okay. Okay. Why is it the side cam not working? Uh-huh. Gotcha. I got a D- in the hardest political science class in 2016 going to college. Oh, man. Okay. Stream Deck, this aren't all working together. I see the problem. I see what's happening here. Paste. Sorry. Here we go. Boom. We're doing it. Man, that's really bad. Oh, man, that's a bad one. Here. And then this. Oh, man. We're figuring it out, guys. We're figuring it out. All right. But yeah, this is my idea. I have like a whole production now for getting things set up before and after my stream. And then Mary Curie's coming back. She's like going to be back in a big way. So that's going to be cool. And then also I have some like cool YT stuff going on too. My overlay is like all run through AI now, which is kind of cool. And yeah, I've been working on it hard. She took a vacation. She took a sabbatical, exactly. meaning red, plural. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I need to figure out how to do this. Oh, hi, Mia. Yeah. Huh. All right, guys. Well, I'm happy to be here. Happy you guys are here. Thank you for everything. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for being in the red and the purple site. I appreciate you guys so much. Really pushing that out right now. I'm really trying to push that stuff. Thank you, user. Thank you. I appreciate you, user 800-765-3378-6325. Name I never forget. She was like, what name are you? Hey, what's your name? You're like, I can't remember your name. I'm sorry, I never got it. But I'm enamored for you and I want to get your number. And she's like, oh, it's just user 86335296436. It's like, your phone, is that your phone number? Like, no, I'm Elon Musk's kid. You know, that's just that's just my name. You're like, oh, okay, that's a little weird. Anyway, guys. Well, thank you so much. You're my favorite. I don't think that you are. I think that you're a bot. Okay. Well, guys, it's been fun. Love you. Thank you for being here. Tomorrow we're gonna do the full like debate day stuff. Tomorrow is gonna be the big day, big stuff, big stream, guys. We're gonna be going through everything. I think we're gonna do a whole gambit, a whole day, like of debate and co-hosts and everything. Like Mary Curry is gonna be here. I think it's gonna be fun. I think it's gonna be a really cool rollout of like my vision, because I really wanted to capture. I want to capture the whole thing on you for YouTube now. You know, like YouTube. Really, I'm really pushing on that one as all my like for my platforms on and everything. I'm really trying to push that one specifically right now. So if you're not subscribed on YouTube, please drgregshow.com. Go there, or you can go to just Dr. Greg Show in YouTube and type it in. It means a lot to me for you to subscribe. So I'm trying to push my YouTube as much as I can. So we'll see. Make America vaccinated again, everyone. Love you. Hope you have a good night. Hang out in the Discord. Get your Mava merch. Get your Mava merch so that at Easter Sunday you can wear your Make America Vaccinated shirt and you make your uncle pissed off. You know what I mean? Like, get your cup, get your stuff. You know, it's cool. It's a cool design. We love it. All right, guys. All right, love you. Thank you for being here. Be nice to someone. Be kind to someone. Oh, thank you. Thank you for the gift. Thank you, Efon. Appreciate you. Helen's got a mug. We are Mava. We are, Dan. We are. All right, guys. Love you. Thank you for tomorrow's going to be a big day. It's a big stream day. It's going to be fun. I can't wait for it. So I'll see you then. Got a lot to do. See ya. Peace. All right, YouTube. Thank you guys. Genuinely from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being here. YouTube is yeah, like I said, my main focus right now. So anything like I'm trying to go on YouTube shows, podcasts, any way that I can. So anything, anyone that you'd recommend, anything that you would like push, I'd love it. So anyway, thank you for being here. Thank you for